Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, joining me as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all sorts of good stuff. And joining us here today on this Thursday, of course, she made her return the other day. Erin Cummings is back, ladies and gentlemen. Erin, how you doing?
I'm wonderful. Good morning. And by the way, I watched the Star Wars trailer, and you know what? I loved it. So there.
Well, I'm glad. Well, that makes two of you in this room, because also joining us is someone else who loved the Star Wars trailer. It's Chris Carr.
Hi, everyone. I love the Star Wars trailer, and yesterday I got to go to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge.
Oh, is that your first time going?
Yay.
Yes, it was. I was at Disney for 13 hours, y'all. It was intense.
I hope you got a button.
I did. We had celebrate buttons because we were celebrating my friend Brett's birthday.
Oh.
And because of that, this amazing guide named Scott, we asked him a question. He said, hey, come back and find us after you're done with your Cantina experience. Took us over to the Millennium Falcon and said, hey, they've got an appointment with Lando, and took us right to the front.
Oh,
it was
that's
the coolest
awesome.
thing that's ever happened in my life. I felt like a scoundrel.
Very nice. Well, I'm glad you guys had a good time. Listen, I hope you guys have been having a good week so far. Listen, we do have a bunch of things to talk about here today, so let's dive right into our main topics. How do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. You see, you guys come up with them by simply sending us your topics by going over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question, hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured here on the John Campea Show. With that down, Chris, what is our first main topic today?
First one is from Mark Battalato. Deadline is reporting that Joker will be returning $500 million in profits for the studio. While this film has been billed as a standalone movie, will Warner Brothers convince Phillips and Phoenix to return for a sequel? And if so, where do you think the story can go from there? Thank you. All right, John, your favorite thing has been this being like a standalone thing when we've talked about this. Yes. Do you think there's going to be a sequel, though?
Look, listen, I have said from the beginning that the thing about this whole thing, and let me bring up the Joker box office here for a second, because I just want to get a number right now of where they're actually at. Because last time I checked, it was at like 750. Yeah, it's still sitting, technically the amount is still sitting at $745 million. That's going to go up. It's going to become the number one box office R-rated film of all time. It's going to pass Deadpool. I still don't think it'll get to $1 billion, but it still has a chance at that as well. This movie is crazy, crazy profitable, because it's not just the amount of money it's making. It's also the crazy amount of how little it costs to make. And this movie is rapidly approaching not just, look, if you can make a movie and make it to the point that you have made $50 million in profit, that's amazing. This thing's approaching $500 million in profit, which is absolutely nuts. You think Paramount would like a little bit of that cheddar right now? Paramount would love some of that right now, especially with the bath they're taking on Gemini Man at the moment. And it's great. Look, we always knew this movie would do well. I honestly didn't think, with it being R-rated and being heavier, I didn't know if it would appeal to enough of the general audience to get it to these sorts of numbers. I knew it would do well, be successful. I was excited about it. Now, I've always said, as Chris alluded to, that one of the things that I've been most excited about this Joker movie is the fact that it is a standalone movie. Finally, something that isn't a franchise or part of a stupid shared cinematic universe. I love shared cinematic universes, but I just want some true standalone films too. It gives you a lot of creativity, because I'll tell you what, you couldn't have made this movie in the DCEU. Not with the existing world that world is. You couldn't have made this movie in that world. You needed to get it out of the cinematic universe to give creative freedom to some filmmakers to tell a great standalone story. So I've always said, no. They're not going to do a sequel to this. They've insisted that. They're not going to go to that and all this kind of stuff. But the fact of the matter is this. Dump trucks full of money have a way of changing one's life's perspective. And when you get a movie that is now, again, in the $500 million in profit range, you can't deny that there has to be, at this point, at least some conversations going on over at WB about, yeah, maybe we should make another one of these. I don't want them to. I want to just treasure this as a true standalone movie. I loved it. I think the novelty is done. This was a treasure of a movie. It's my number one favorite comic book movie of the year, but I do want them to leave well enough alone. But even I gotta say, there has to be conversations going on. I would give it probably a 30% chance that there's going to be a sequel. And not long ago, I would have said 5% chance. But now I got to go all the way up to like 30. Look, this money talks. And when you're talking about money of this value, of this amount, I don't want it, but I can't blame them to consider it. I don't know, Aaron. First of all, what are you thinking about? Did you think a movie like Joker, about a villain, R-rated, very heavy, could have made this type of money? And do you think this is going to kind of force their hand into going into sequelville?
Yeah, I don't think that anyone, no matter how successful someone may have predicted the movie would have been, I would be shocked if anyone could have predicted this kind of success, given exactly what you were just saying, the dark nature of the film, the fact that it is a standalone movie and you don't have the not even periphery, but the more popular characters of Batman, to fill in the enthusiasm for it. And also, let's not forget, like, Joaquin Phoenix is considered a brilliant actor, but it's not necessarily like people are like, oh my God, I can't wait to go see the new Joaquin Phoenix film. He's not one of those guys that's constantly out hustling and, on the talk show circuit to, pump up his movies. And even when he is on the talk shows, he's a little like awkward and clearly doesn't want to be there. So I'm really surprised at this level of success, but I think it's wonderful. What I want to say I don't think that there will be a sequel. Obviously, those conversations are happening. Everybody at Warner Brothers is just salivating right now and probably willing to give up their first and second born child to Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix in order to make this happen. What I see more happening, I don't see Joaquin Phoenix wanting to do a second Joker. And the only way that it would happen, in my opinion, is if they had some incredible story that made it make sense. And I think that rushing into some sort of story to make a sequel just for the sake of profitability is not something that either Todd Phillips or Joaquin Phoenix want to do. What I would see more happening is Warner Brothers saying, okay, Todd, can you do this with any other characters? And perhaps almost creating another world where we have these backstories and really get into the psychology and create almost a whole new genre within the comic book world. I see that more happening versus a sequel.
The fear I have of that is that I'm afraid of them doing a cookie cutter copy repeat. Now let's just do the same thing with Riddler.
Agree.
Now let's do the same thing with Penguin. And I'm also afraid that if you do a sequel to this, one of the brilliant things about Joker was that it's a comic book movie, but it's very much not a comic book movie. Exactly. And I'm afraid that now you've got to this point, going any further, now you're just getting into traditional comic book movie territory. Now he has to become the clown prince of crime. You've done all the setup, now you got to do this. And I'm a little nervous about that. But Chris, do you think at this point, do you think they'll hold their ground and go, nope, this was meant as a one-shot, we're sticking with that? Or do you think this type of money makes them have to reconsider that position? What do you think they're going to do?
I really think they're going to stand their ground on this one. I mean, Phoenix gave up doing the MCU because he didn't want to do a whole bunch of movies. He didn't want to be contractually obligated to stuff because you don't see those scripts at a time. He passed on Doctor Strange. And, they could probably do something here where they could Parnassus it a bit, give us somebody else in Arthur's shoes, We could maybe do something where we explore different types of Jokers, because that's always been a thing, too, is we don't have an actual set origin story with this character. That's one of the great things about the comics, is we keep it pretty mysterious. So we could have people popping in and out being the Joker. But again, that could lead to those cookie cutter films. I say, truly go Highlander. There can be only one. Don't do this Highlander 2 nonsense. Stick with it, guys.
Chris, what was that word that you
Parnassus, the movie where it started out with Heath Ledger, right? And then they had
a whole bunch of people.
They had Johnny Depp in there.
Oh, right, and Kate Blanchett.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so a whole bunch of different people jumped in.
I see. Okay, got it.
So the question here is, guys, what do you think? Number one, what do you think they should do about this? Number two, what do you think they will do about it? Because those are two separate questions, quite often with two separate answers. Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, with that down, let's move on to our second main topic today. Chris, what is our second main topic today?
This one's from David. Hey, John, I was looking at the release schedule and realized that the weekend of November 15th has 4 movies coming out that I'm excited for. Ford v. Ferrari, Charlie's Angels, The Report with Adam Driver, and The Good Liar. Which ones are you going to see first, and what are you expecting from each, both in quality and in box office? Which one do you want to see the most?
Well, yeah, first of all, that is great. Now, I should point out here, when I looked at the general release schedule, I did not see The Report on it. But IMDb is saying that The Report is indeed coming out on that day. So let's just go with that for a moment. This is crazy because, number one, you got Ford v. Ferrari there, which Matt Damon, Christian Bale, both going to be in the running for Best Lead Actor. They've already announced they're going to push them both for Best Lead. You've got the oh my God, Ian McKellen, Helen Mirren. This is one they showed us previews for at CinemaCon back in April, and we were like, oh my God, this movie ain't going to make $1 billion, but oh my God, this looks really, really good in The Good Liar. I've been hearing great things about Adam Driver's The Report. I have not watched it yet myself, and I don't know a whole ton about it. I'm just hearing great things about it. And to a small degree, I'm oddly intrigued by the Charlie's Angels movie. I think the trailers have had a little bit of fun in them. I'm coming off of Aladdin. I'm kind of really into Naomi Scott right now, coming off Aladdin, so there's that. And I thought the trailers had some fun elements to it. We'll see. Listen, I love Elizabeth Banks. There's not a lot of hot lava I won't walk over for Elizabeth Banks. She's still a little questionable as a director. You know, her first one out of the gate was that Pitch Perfect sequel. Not a well-directed movie. Now, I'm sure she's learned lessons from that and moved on, so we'll see. As far as which one I'm going to go see first out of this, it's no contest. It's for Ford v. Ferrari. It just looks like the best film. Aside from the fact that you got James Mangold directing, coming off of one of the greatest comic book movies of all time in Logan, you got two of the best actors working today in co-lead roles with Matt Damon and Christian Bale. You've got it based on true story stuff, and you guys know I'm always a sucker for that sort of thing. You got a supporting cast that is remarkable, with not the least of which is a John Bernthal. There's just so much about this Ford v. Ferrari that I am so utterly pumped about. Right after that, for me, it's going to be The Good Liar. Right after that, for me, it's going to be The Report. And right after that, for me, it's going to be Charlie's Angels. But I honestly think, no question, that the number one film I'm looking forward to here, and the one that I think is going to be number one at the box office out of these ones, I think there's a lot of anticipation for Ford v. Ferrari. It's a really good weekend to be a movie fan, but I do think that Ford v. Ferrari is going to be the one that comes out on top of all that. Aaron, it's a very diverse group of films there, too.
Something for everyone, for sure.
A little something for everyone. Which one are you looking forward to the most, and which one do you think will end up winning the weekend? Which one's going to get the most people out to see it?
I'm with you, Ford v. Ferrari. I have been wanting to see this movie since we saw the trailer drop. I'm going to advocate for a Campea family reunion, as you guys were able to do with Joker, that I couldn't go to because I was in Atlanta. Chris couldn't go to because she was working on a voiceover. But I would love for us to all go and see Ford v. Ferrari together. I agree. I think that the talent, as well as just the historical essence of the fact that this is based on a true story, I always love those types of films anyway, where I can actually learn something about the history of a company that we know so much about. And this particular moment in time, followed very closely by The Good Liar. Agree with you. The trailer is phenomenal. I think that watching these two films in the same weekend will be like a masterclass in acting. Anyone who wants to just see performance should absolutely be going to see both of these films. I want to learn more about The Report. I don't know enough about it. Obviously Adam Driver is phenomenal and the subject matter is intriguing, but I'm not connected to it yet. I'm sorry, I have no desire to see Charlie's Angels. I just don't. I don't.
Don't
I want
call
to.
Me Angel.
I
No?
mean, I want to. You know
Patrick
that.
Stewart? No.
You know that I am all about like female-directed films starring. But I don't know why. I just don't know why we're doing it. And Tom and I were driving by and we saw the posters and he goes, "Do you want to see that?" I said, "I have no interest in seeing it."
Yeah, I'll tell you what. If it was just the trailer, neither would I. I think there are a couple of little intangibles that are going to make me at least curious to go to watch. Again, I'm on a big Naomi Scott kick right now, just because I absolutely loved her in Aladdin. Kristen Stewart is. I am becoming oddly fascinated with her because I've seen her in a couple things previously that I actually thought she was quite good in. I like the trailers just came out for that underwater movie where she's in an underwater station like 7 miles beneath the thing. I actually got a kick out of it. I know a lot of other people didn't, but I'm also a little bit intrigued by that simply because of the Robert Pattinson thing. It's like, wouldn't it be cool to see both of them kind of emerge out of the shadows of Twilight and both come out? So a little bit there. And again, I have a very, very tender, soft spot in my heart for Elizabeth Banks. And I love Patrick Stewart. I love Jaima and Hansu.
I could be convinced. I think that what I'm going to need is...
I'm not saying I think it's going to be good.
Yeah, no.
But I'm at least intrigued.
I'll say this. I don't need anyone else's opinion on Ford v. Ferrari or The Good Liar in order to go, yeah, I want to go see those movies. If someone comes back and says, you know what? Charlie's Angels, super fun, really great, great comedic timing. The girls had awesome chemistry. The women had awesome chemistry. Elizabeth Banks really killed it. I would go see it. I just don't have any immediate interest in going see it based on the little amount that I've... And also, I haven't seen it advertised that much, which makes me kind of wonder about what the studio is thinking.
They're not investing a ton in that. I've seen the trailer a few times. Chris, a bunch of interesting looking films here. Which one are you going to first? Which one are most people going to go to first?
I mean, I'm going to go see The Good Liar first so I can see my husband's girlfriend, Helen Mirren.
Right.
We all know this. That's what I'm going to be taken to first. What I'm actually really excited about, though, is The Report, because I love a thriller, and that's what they're doing with this kind of 9/11 set story, is making it more of a thriller and adding some kind of espionage elements into it. It's going to be really intriguing. And I love Adam Driver so much. I think he is such an incredible performer. I love him as a person. I feel like he would be related to me. I don't know. Every time I see him, he looks like my family members. And so I'm just like, come to a Denizio reunion. Let's do this. Ford v. Ferrari, obviously going to be so good. I love that Aaron used the word masterclass, because that's what I keep thinking too for this and for Good Liar. It's just going to be performance-driven, quality stuff. Charlie's Angels. Okay, even though it's on the bottom of my list, as long as I go to a theater that has a bar, you guys, I'm going to have a great time. Because if I can just knock back some wine and watch some explosions, it's going to be great. Kristen Stewart gets a really bad rap. I didn't see the Twilight movies for the first time until this year when I was sick, because it was all on Hulu. And those are terrible, sure. She does a lot of breathing instead of acting. She does a lot of... But everything else she's been in is great. I adore her now. And she's super hot. All these ladies are super hot, and I'm so pumped for them. I love the original movies. It's going to be fun. It's going to be, women power, and I can get behind that. It's going to be a popcorn movie at best.
If I can get drunk with Chris and go, that's what I'll do. I would do that. I would go and have a couple glasses of wine and watch it with Chris. And then watch this. I would do that.
It'd be very fun.
Well, the question here is, guys, what do you think about this? It is a packed weekend. Which film are you running out to first? And a secondary question, which one do you think most people will run out to see first? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, with that down, let's move on to our third main topic today. Chris, what is main topic number 3?
This is from James Ito. Hey, John. Love the show and glad that Aaron's back.
Yay!
Me too. Read on Variety that Sony is releasing Quentin Tarantino's film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with an additional 10 minutes of footage, making it nearly 3 hours. It'll be in 1,000 theaters this Friday. This is my favorite film of the year so far, and I would love to hear what you think. All right, John, how you feeling about those extra minutes?
Wow, this is stupid. It's really stupid for a couple of reasons. Stupid reason number one of the big problems with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was it was already 25 minutes longer than it needed to be. That movie did not need to be that long. I mean, there are some movies that you watch it at 2.5 hours and you feel like, man, this could have used an extra 15 minutes. There's some movies you watch 2 hours long and you think this could have shaved off 15 minutes. This movie was way longer than it needed to be. There's so much in this movie that is absolutely unconnected. The entire Margot Robbie character could have been scalpeled out of the movie and it wouldn't have changed the movie one little bit. Nobody has successfully been able to communicate to me why we needed 15 minutes of Sharon Tate walking around the sidewalks in Hollywood, dropping into a bookstore, going into a movie theater to watch her own movie, and going home. How did that further the story of this movie? How did that impact this movie? It didn't at all. And we had like 20 minutes of Quentin Tarantino masturbatory, look how I transformed Hollywood into the 1960s again, everybody. There was so many minutes of screen time of just driving, Not talking while driving. And listen, this is coming from somebody who liked the movie. I like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I went back to the theater to watch it 3 times. I enjoyed it. But this is a movie that was already too long. Adding more minutes. But the big thing of stupid here is that it's a continuation of this terrible, terrible trend we've seen this year. Let's put out the movie, wait a few weeks, and then tell everybody, oh, look, everybody, we're adding more footage. Come back to the movie theater again. We didn't want to show it all to you when you paid us the first time. We want to make you pay again to come back and see the full experience. They did it with Endgame, which wasn't even any extra footage in the movie. They tricked everybody to thinking there was extra footage, but there wasn't. They did it with Midsommar. They did it with Spider-Man Far From Home. And now they're doing it with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I am telling you, fellow film fans, we have got to take a stand on it. Now, look, if it's 4 years later and they want to say, hey, guys, we're going to celebrate this movie that was out like a few years ago and put it out and as an extra enticement, put in some extra. I can get that. But while it's still basically in theaters, and going, oh, guys, now you got to come back again and see the footage you didn't get to see the first time around. Fuck you. I think this is a terrible, terrible precedent they've been doing. I think film fans need to take a stand and say, no. You either show us the movie as it is, with everything you want to be in the movie, or screw off and come back a few years later. So on several levels, I think this is a story that is just full of a lot of stupidity. So anyway, that's my take on it. Erin, what do you think?
So I have two thoughts on this. Well, number one, the reason why we needed Margot Robbie in the movie theater was because we needed to have 5 minutes of gratuitous foot play for all of the foot fetishes.
Yeah, again, a Quentin Tarantino thing. Yeah.
All of the feet.
A lot of feet.
A lot of feet. Feet on windshields, feet in, some of us don't need to see anyone's feet, even if they belong to Margot Robbie. She has gorgeous feet. She's perfect in every way. I still don't need to see the bottom of her feet. One part of me says, oh my God, this is awesome. I want to see what those extra 10 minutes are, because one of my only issues with the film that I had was the fact that I didn't feel like it was a Quentin Tarantino film until like the last 20 minutes,
which are stupid good,
amazing, and fun. Like I was kind of like, okay, this is nice. Oh my God, and here we are! Yay! This is what I come to. This is what I come to the Quentin Tarantino movies for. That's what I want to see. I want to see 10 more minutes of that, and I would be willing to go back in order to watch 10 more minutes of that. At the same time, I hear you, John. You're right. Like, why wouldn't you just have included those 10 minutes before, or give us some breath before you invite us back to the theater to see the same movie that we already saw? And I think that this is taking the place of, hey, you saw the movie in theaters, now buy the DVD and we're going to have all this extra footage for you. Now people aren't buying DVDs unless you're Robert Meyer Burnett. So they are finding a way to offer more for you to come back and see it again to get more money. I really think that you're right. There needs to be a longer pause before reintroducing a film. And I mean, you guys know I'm not going to be able to go see this anyway because I can't hold my bladder for 3 hours. It's a scientific impossibility. So I won't be going to the theater to see it. However, when it is eventually released on Netflix or Hulu, I'm really looking forward to those extra 10 minutes, pending that they are 10 minutes of Quentin Tarantino gratuitous gore, people being ripped apart, shot in the face, and hacked into 17 pieces and all kinds of craziness and blood-curdling screams. That's what I want to see. If it's 10 more minutes of somebody's feet, nope.
Now, and listen, let me reaffirm here. I really do. I like this movie. Yeah. I think there are performances in it that are Oscar buzzworthy, and I think you're going to see a couple of I think you're going to see Leo nominated.
The little girl, I would see the movie again just for her.
That scene between her and Leo was so
brilliant.
Good. So
brilliant.
Good. For me, because Quentin Tarantino is such a god in this business, to me, it's in the bottom tier of Quentin Tarantino films. Like, there's all the brilliance, and then there's still good, but it's not, I don't know. It wasn't my favorite Tarantino film for as good as we've come to.
But it's still an incredible film.
But it's still very good, and it's going to get a lot of attention. Question here is, guys, what do you think about this? Are you going to be one of the, I don't know, those people goes, hey, you know what? I can just wait another month and get that 10 extra minutes when I buy it on home streaming anyway. or are you going to go out and see it again? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, with that down, let's move on to main topic and our final main topic today. Main topic number 4. Chris, what is our 4th main topic today?
Ooh, the saga continues. Chase Lee writes, "Hey, John. I hope you and everyone are having a brilliant day. I was wondering if you saw Bob Iger's recent comments about Scorsese saying Marvel movies aren't cinema. He brought up points about Black Panther's impact and so forth. I personally thought it was a great comeback. What are your thoughts on this, and will this argument ever end? When will it end, John? Can't they all get along?"
I think Big Daddy just came in and laid the hammer down, to be honest with you. So, look, again, just to recap just very, very quickly, nobody has any problem with a Scorsese or a Coppola saying they don't like comic book movies. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. The classy thing to do, if you're Francis Ford Coppola or Marty Scorsese, is to go, you know what? Yeah, that's great that there are these comic book movies. Personally, I don't find a lot of substance to them. They're not for me. I don't enjoy them. Fine. There's nothing wrong with that, and there's nothing wrong with anybody, even big premier filmmakers not liking certain genre of films. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Where a lot of people have taken issue is that they've actually keep talking about it, and they keep talking about it, and every time they talk about it, they intensify the verbiage. It goes from, as well as the first statement by Marty Scorsese, which I defended, by the way. The first statement by Marty Scorsese, I don't really consider them cinema as well as they're made. I think more cinema, this, and this. And I defended his statement in that. Like, didn't necessarily fully agree, but I defended it. Hey, he's just saying he just considers them a certain way. Nothing wrong with that. But then he talked about it again, and this time ramped it up and started referring to them as invaders. Like unwelcome guests in our theaters. Start talking about movie theaters need to ball up and stop making all the room in the theaters for those movies. When the statistics don't lie, only 3% of the theater space is taken up by comic book movies. So that means 97% is taken up by others. But whatever, we won't get bogged down in facts. Then it gets ratcheted up again with Coppola coming out saying these movies aren't just bad. I'll take it one step further. Marty was being nice. These are despicable. These are okay. And then Marty came out and ratcheted it up again, saying young film fans don't know what cinema is. They don't know what cinema is. And now it's gone to actually attacking the fans. And anyway, again, nobody's saying that these guys don't have the right to an opinion. Say, hey, I don't like them. They're not for me. But I think, as I've said before, I think it shows an extreme lack of class. I don't think filmmakers should be talking about other filmmakers. Leave that for fans to do. Leave that for film critics to do. Leave that for whatever. I just think it's kind of Bush League and beneath the godlike stature of a Francis Ford Coppola and of a Marty Scorsese to come out and trash talk other filmmakers' work. It's not their place to do that. And I think it shows a lack of class. That's just me. But whatever. So finally, after the latest thing about now the fans are dumb, the boss has decided to enter the fray. Bob Iger, High Lord and Emperor of all things Disney, has decided to jump into the conversation and lay the hammer down. And he said the following. We're going to read this at length here. He said several interesting things, and he said this: doesn't bother me. I think that's a lie. I think it bothered him. It doesn't bother me, except I'm bothered on behalf of the people who work on those movies. Francis Ford Coppola and Martin Scorsese are two people I hold in the highest regard in terms of films that they've made, as we all should, by the way. The films I've liked, the films we've all watched. But when Francis uses the word despicable, I reserve the word despicable for someone who committed mass murder. These are movies. To whom is he talking? Is he talking to Kevin Feige, who runs Marvel? Or Taika Waititi, who directs? Or Ryan Coogler, who directs for us? I think I've sounded a little more defensive than I wanted to be because I don't really feel the need to defend what we're doing. We are in the business, first of all, we're in the business of making money. We're a profitable business. At the same time at Disney, we try to balance that with telling great stories to the world and infusing them with great values and supporting an employee base of well over 200,000 people around the world with great care and, frankly, respect. So I'm puzzled by it. If they want to bitch about movies, it's certainly their right. You're telling me Ryan Coogler, by the way, who made Fruitvale Station, you're telling me Ryan Coogler making Black Panther is doing something that is somehow or another less than what Martin Scorsese or Francis Ford Coppola has ever done to any of their movies? Like, come on. Yeah, I said it. All right. A couple of things I want to mention. And I read this at length because I thought it was, the boss doesn't often speak. All right. It's not often the boss decides to come out and engage in this stuff. First thing I'm going to say is this, though. All due respect to Bob Iger. No. Taika Waititi, Kevin Feige, and Ryan Coogler have never made anything on the level of The Godfather. Or Goodfellas. Let's just be clear about that, okay? I got to disagree with the boss on that. That is another level, okay? That's another level. So I'm going to disagree with Iger on that one. I'm sorry, Black Panther, great movie. I enjoyed it a lot. Saw it many times in theaters. Did not deserve a Best Picture nomination. I thought it was the third best comic book movie of that year. But nothing Kevin Feige has produced is as good as The Godfather. It's just a matter of opinion. Grant, that's just my subjective opinion, but nothing Kevin Feige, who is amazing and who I just adore, nothing Kevin Feige has ever done is on the level of The Godfather or Goodfellas or what have you. These are iconic level filmmakers. These are two of the greatest to ever do it. So let's just be clear about that. So I disagree with that one point he made. That being said, I think this was a very good response. It's like, okay, you want to call us despicable. All right. You want to say we have no inherent value. Okay. You want to say that the people who enjoy our films are stupid. Okay. Why? And I think it was something necessary. Again, I think if Scorsese, the first comment from Scorsese came out, I think it just could have been left alone and this whole issue would be dead by now. And I don't think we would have ever seen a Bob Iger respond to it. But because, then he's asked about it again, he decides to ratchet up the intensity of the vitriol. And then it goes to Coppola, who decides it's time to ramp it up even more. And at that point, I think it seemed to Bob Iger that it's time for Daddy to put his foot down. And this has got to stop. Like, you want to say you don't like these movies, there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. There are movies that we talk about on here that I say, you know what? They're not for me. Like, we talk about there's some anime that I quite enjoy, but anime is not for me. I just say, you know what? It's just generally not something that's for me. But a lot of people love it, and that's awesome. And I just really wish that a Coppola or a Scorsese would have taken that thing. Anyway, I am a little bit surprised that Iger decided to get involved in this and to weigh into this personally. I don't think he ever would had these things just stopped, but they've continued on. And unfortunately, I don't think this is going to end it. Unfortunately, I think as long as there are people who are having success and then there are people who are not, I think you're going to see some back and forth. But I thought this was a very good, measured, proper response. And he paid all due respect to Coppola and Scorsese while doing it, as we all should. We can disagree with Coppola and Scorsese on this, and I think they're showing a lack of class. But these are two gods in filmmaking. Make no mistake about it. These are gods among us when it comes to filmmaking. So anyway, Aaron, you and I have not really had a lot of a chance to talk about this whole thing because you were in Atlanta filming. But what do you think about Iger's response? Was it too much? Should he have not gotten involved at all? Was it a measured one? How do you see it?
Well, I'm going to go back just because we haven't had a chance to talk about it. And when I first heard about Scorsese's comments and then followed by Coppola's and then it just continued, it reminded me of an interview that I read a long time ago and I had to double check. In August of 1980, Mick Jagger said, "Rock and roll has no future." That was in 1980. This is before Van Halen and Bon Jovi and U2's massive success. Like, this is, and that was obviously a statement coming from an aging rock star who, by all accounts, is a god in his genre, no different than Coppola or Scorsese. and sort of seemed a little sour grapes. Like the old guard is moving out. There's all these youngins coming up and taking over with this new version of what he was so famous for. And then similarly, when Jerry Lee Lewis said women can't be funny, like someone who is a comedic god essentially dismissing an entire generation of comedians, and not even generation, but an entire group of comedians. That's what this sounds like. And I agree with you. I just go, but to what point? What is the purpose of these comments other than to alienate filmmakers and filmgoers who revere these filmmakers in the way that they should, based on their contribution to this industry? I think that Bob Iger's comments are on point, and I think that they're necessary, they're valuable, and I just don't understand why Coppola and Scorsese continue to make these comments. Like, make the movies that you want to make. At one point, you guys were the rebels. You guys were tearing apart what was the status quo of filmmaking, and you set new precedences, set a new precedence for what people wanted to see and what they expected. So why on earth would you challenge or put down other people for taking strides outside of the box that you created? You know, just because these films are not something that you personally enjoy does not mean that you have the right to dismiss them and to dismiss the joy that people get out of watching them. I just think that the comments are, I think the comments are despicable, to be quite honest. And I appreciate and applaud Bob Iger for standing up for the filmmakers and for speaking out on their behalf.
Now, and listen, I get it to some degree. Some people will come back to me and say, well, John, you know, an interviewer asked them about it. Okay, then what you say is, I don't like the films personally. Mm-hmm. They're not for me.
Yeah.
That's it. End of just, no one's talking about this anymore if that happens.
Yeah, and you know, or like I said earlier, we were off camera, Lawrence of Arabia has a lot of sand. Yeah. I don't personally like sand. I appreciate the fact that it is a film that many people appreciate. I just have no interest in watching it ever again. It's too much sand and it's too long.
You and Anakin Skywalker.
For me.
Chris, I mean, you've been through all this, watching them yucking everybody else's yum.
Yucking the yum.
What do you think about Bob Iger's comments?
Oh, what a clapback. Well done, Bobby. I love it. I think it's a very classy statement. I think it's a great way to handle this of, look, I'm a businessman. I'm making money. I'm making films. And if you don't like them, hey, that's fine. But also, look at the people you are insulting, because you are insulting them, guys. That's what you're doing. You're not being very nice. And just think about that for a second. It's a very, very sweet little, you get more flies with honey than vinegar kind of thing that Bob's doing right now. And I like it. Because why as a person in any kind of business, would you want to insult your potential other coworkers and co-collaborators? Because at the end of the day, that's what a lot of these guys are doing. And while they are masters in what they've done, what are they going to do in the future if they're continually insulting the people who are getting films right now, who are working in things, who are making things that do have great cultural impact? You know, we still will be talking about The Godfather and all these other movies for years and years to come. However, we're also going to be talking about Black Panther for years and years to come. So maybe just think about what you need to say. We're going to all Jeff Carr. Does it need to be said? Does it need to be said by me? And does it need to be said by me right now? If you can't answer yes to all three of those questions, like my daddy says, you shut your mouth.
And you know, I think one of the things I like a lot about Bob Iger's statement is that, you know, he's very cordial throughout the whole statement. You know, blah blah blah. But then he throws in one line just to let it be really known subtly. I'm dead serious about this. Last line of this part. I'm puzzled by it, but hey, they want to bitch about movies.
Yeah.
It's certainly their right. I mean, in that one line, he guys say, hey, look, I'm being really above the board. I'm being very nice. But just so you don't mistake my calm, even tone for being passive about this issue, I'm going to throw in this one extra little line. You want to bitch about it? Fine. I don't know. I like the comment. Question here is, guys, what do you think about Bob Iger's response to this whole thing? I thought it was measured, and I hope this ends. I'll be frank. I know a bunch of you guys are sick of hearing about this whole thing. I'm starting to get sick of talking about it, to be frank. So I hope this kind of ends this whole thing, and now we can just all move on and see lots of different types of movies being made by lots of different filmmakers that we can all go and enjoy. Let's just get back to that. I hope that's the case at any rate. All right, guys, listen. That will do it for all of our main topics today. We're now going to move on to that part of the show where we take your live questions. But before we do, we're going to take a short 3.5 minute break here, stretch the legs, refill the drink, all that sort of stuff. So if you guys will indulge us and hang in there, we'll be right back in just 3.5 minutes. We'll see you in just a moment. And we are back. Thank you guys for your patience and your indulgence as we took a little bit of a break there. All right, let's jump over and start taking your guys' live questions right now. And we're going to start things off with Bullet 1510, who writes, scene director Ken Loach let me try this again. Director Ken Loach is the latest petulant man baby to gush about popular films that, in his opinion, have nothing to do with the art of cinema. I'll be honest with you, I do not care what Ken Loach says. Like, I'm sorry, Ken, if nobody went to go see I Am Daniel Blake. I'm sorry if nobody went to go see The Wind That Shakes the Barley. I'm sorry that nobody went to go see them. I'm sure they're very, very fine films. Actually, When the Shakespeare Are is a pretty good film. But I really don't care. People can come start jumping out now and trying to get on... what's his name? Why am I freezing on it? On Scorsese and Coppola's coattails at this point. They can try to do that at this point, but I really don't care what they have to say at this right now. All right, Magic K writes, Joseph Loeb exits Marvel by Thanksgiving. Thoughts? Not surprised. I mean, Kevin Feige was given the new realm and dominion over all of Marvel stuff. That includes Marvel TV now. That's a brand new thing. Not surprised that Joseph Loeb is out. I'll be honest with you. I'm really not. You knew big changes were going to come. They haven't had the best success. They have had some wins. They've had some not so big wins. But so I'm not surprised with a brand new boss coming in that we're going to get some changes. So Michael Pacheco writes, just did a double feature of The Lighthouse and Jojo Rabbit. And my inner cinephile is very pleased. Bravo to both. And as a matter of fact, Michael, I'm going to go see a double feature of those films tonight.
Ooh.
Yeah, they're I'm going to try, if I can get enough time off this afternoon, which is nearly impossible for me, I might even try to do a triple feature.
Wow.
I'm going to try, because all at the AMC Burbank 16 right now is Lighthouse, Jojo, and Parasite.
Ooh.
Which may very quietly has become like a front runner for Best Picture.
What is Parasite?
It's a Korean film. And I've watched a bunch of footage from it, and it won a number of the big major film festivals.
I do love a subtitle.
All my friends have told me too is that it starts in one genre and it's going to switch up on you, and that's all I've been told. They were like, don't look anything up, just know that you're going to go into it with very different things happening.
Oh, I love that kind of thing.
So that sounds like you had a good night last night, man. Bullet 1510 writes, where are we at here? One of two. While Loke's films are highbrow and low profit enough to meet his narrow definition of cinema, Scorsese and Coppola have dabbled in massively successful populist films, so maybe Loke considers the three Godfathers to be commodities like hamburgers too. Possibly. Again, I don't really care about his comments. I don't really care about him. No disrespect to him. He's made some pretty damn good films, but I really don't care what he has to say about it. Like I said, to me, he's just ganging up on the whole thing to get a little bit of attention at this point.
It'll be interesting to see how many other filmmakers who have obscure films that a lot of people have not seen decide to jump onto the train of bashing popular films so that they can get their names in the press as well.
Yeah, and I wonder if that will be hindered a little bit now that Iger has come out and talked about the subject. We'll have to wait and see. AJ Lancaster writes, Bob Iger was quoted swearing. In other news, Alan Horn has recently been caught sneaking smoke breaks in It's a Small World ride. You know what?
That's why it was shut down yesterday. Oh my gosh.
Did you try to go on a Small World? Hey,
I always try to go on It's a Small World.
have you been on Jungle Cruise?
Yeah, I was on there yesterday.
Okay. I gotta say, I might have told the story before, I can't remember. The last trip I took to Disneyland, this is a few weeks ago, like five of our friends. And they're like, we were trying to figure out which ride to go on next. I was like, Jungle Cruise only has like a 10-minute wait. I'm like, I've never been on Jungle Cruise. And they're like, oh, well, we gotta go. I've been to Disneyland like 30 times. I've never been on Jungle Cruise. Mm-hmm. I know they're making a movie about it and all this kind of stuff now. So that, it's probably not gonna be much. Probably not gonna be much. I went on that. I have no idea how that ride is even still in existence. That's a stupid ride.
What do you mean?
It's terrible.
Okay.
And the animatics looked lame. The boat driver jokes were stupid. It was just this. At least in the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, you at least have the one big drop. There's just you sitting there looking at bad animatics. I don't know.
Here's the thing, though. I don't have kids, but I can imagine that if you are a parent bringing children, the Jungle Cruise is a really nice way to just relax for a minute. Mm-hmm. And little kids don't care about the animation or the animatronics of the rhinoceros or whatever. I think that Jungle Cruise will live forever as long as parents need an effing break.
That's true. And if you have a cruise director, was your cruise director like a happy Disney college intern or an old haggard man?
It was a happy college intern.
That's why you need a haggard sea captain at the helm.
When they tell the jokes, they kind of sound like they're dirty, even if they're not.
They gotta throw them away.
All right, I'll take your guys' word, but you make a great point. It's probably is a good one for just time to sit down for 10 minutes with the kids.
You need, and they have to
I'll give
pepper
you that.
those in. It's like you can't have a paragraph filled with exclamation points. You need a couple ellipses or a couple periods every once in a while.
But Small World was a similar thing to me, that the first time, and I did do Small World years ago, but I remember going, this is the big legendary Small World.
But have you ever done It's a Small World with a child?
I have not.
Their eyes were like, oh my gosh. I mean, there's so much sensory.
Be honest, that was you, wasn't it?
Huh?
That was you, right? That'd be honest.
I mean, maybe. I do love that ride. I love it.
All right, let's move on here. Next one comes to us from RJT Technovine, who writes, Hey, you guys, greetings. Fan for 8 years. Thank you so much, RJ. Just want to ask if you can give me a shout out because RJ will celebrate his 28th Filipino birthday today.
Wow.
Well, happy birthday,
Happy birthday.
RJ. Kumusta ka and samalat. And I hope you have a marvelous, fantastic birthday and a marvelous, fantastic year ahead of you, filled with triumph and victory and all that sorts of good stuff. So I hope you have a good one. For those of you wondering what I just said, I said the only two Filipino phrases I know. I said, how are you doing? And I said, thank you.
Can you say it again?
Kumusta ka?
Kamusta ka
Yeah.
is how are you doing?
Yeah, and or hello, like it's a greeting.
Kamusta
And
ka?
then salamat.
Salama?
With salamat with the T on
Salamat.
it. Yeah, as kind of a thank you at the end.
Salamat.
Being
Look what
around my
we've all-
entire Filipino family, those are the two phrases I picked up.
Look what
And
we've
right
all learned
now,
today.
Ray is downstairs. My brother-in-law, Ray, Ann's brother, who does the graphics for the show, he's downstairs right now, probably like shaking his head because I'm probably mispronouncing the words as we speak.
He scared the shit out of me. I walked in the door and I didn't know that anyone was down there. And all of a sudden I heard him just grunt. He didn't say, hey, Aaron, what's up? He just goes, "Ugh." And I thought it was a bear or like some animal behind me.
Yeah, he's here
I was
today.
like, oh, wait, what's up, Ray?
All right, let's move on here. Bullet 1510 writes, sorry, we already got that. Sam W. writes, the Marvel bashing is the new version of Spielberg bashing back in the day. I thought about that as well. His films were also described as non-cinema, cinematic landscape, changes all the time. In the future, we'll have this argument again by the old mules who are young right now. P.S. Godfather is my favorite film. Oh yeah, Godfather's got to be a top 10 favorite film of all time. It's certainly mine. Godfather 1 and 2 are both in my top 10s of all time. Let's just be really clear about that. But you're right. You're right. We all become our fathers, right? We all become, eventually we become, get off my lawn. We all become, there's actually some, what's that? I can't remember what the insurance company is. There's an insurance company right now that's running ads like
Geico.
That once you buy a house, you kind of start to become your parents, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like in filmmaking, all the young hotshot rebels filmmakers eventually go on to become the grumpy old guys who say,
100%.
music today sucks. Music in my day was great, when they were the rebels at the time.
Yeah, Mick Jagger.
And today's rebels, I'm telling you right now, at some point, Ryan Coogler, as great as he is, at some point, he's going to be that guy going, these young filmmakers don't know how to make films today. We all become our fathers. You know, so it's...
I mean, I see women in their 20s wearing these teeny little dresses, and I'm like, what are they wearing? And then I remember what I used to wear in my 20s, and I'm like, yes.
Yeah, Cookie. Come on.
Young little cookies strutting their stuff.
Okay, RJ Technovine writes, sadly, Filipinos like me will see episode 9 on January 8th. Yeah, but at least that's not that much of a... Like, there are some countries when a big movie comes out, they got to wait like 3 months till they say, you're gonna have to wait about 3 extra weeks. So that's not too bad. It's not too bad. All right. RJ also writes, Metro Manila Film Festival takes the Star Wars run. Oh, is that what's pushing it off? Is because there's a big film festival first? That kind of makes sense. I can understand that. I've still never been to Manila. I've never been to the Philippines.
What?
No, I've never been to the Philippines.
Why?
Anne and her family. Well, honestly, main reason, I hate flying. And like
Really?
the flight to go home to Canada, which is about a 5-hour flight, that's about the most I can do.
Oh, so yeah, you
And
can't
flying
do
to
that.
the Philippines, which is weird because Anne's sister, Olive, my sister-in-law, who is actually shorter than Anne, is married to another Canadian from the Toronto area who was a massive Star Wars fan.
Oh.
Except he's a 6'10" bodybuilder who got a scholarship for the NCAA in basketball.
Just like you. You
Just-
guys are basically
just
living
like
parallel
me.
lives.
Me and Stan's my brother. We're like twinsies. But it's so funny because
They're in different hemispheres.
Anne is short.
Yeah.
So,
but
like-
there's not that much of a difference between you guys.
No, listen, I still look at the two of them standing side by side sometimes and I go, how does that work? But anyway, what were we talking about? Oh, yes, flying there. So Stan has gone over there.
Okay.
Because Anne's family in
How
the
does Stan
Philippines.
fit on the airplane?
That's a great question. I'm not
he
really
has
sure.
to fly first class. There's no way that he could.
Because he's a big dude.
He would not be able to do coach all
But
the way.
I thought you were going to say he cannot be able to do coke the whole way. You're right. He can't do
You
coke the whole
can't.
time.
It's so tricky.
That'll help you with the flight, though. But he's gone over there before. Now you gotta understand, Anne's family is a connected family. Anne's godmother was the president of the Philippines.
What?
Yeah, Anne's grandfather was the Supreme Court of the Philippines. Anne's family recently went over there for the renaming of high schools and parks in their grandfather's
Take
name.
a Xanax and go. You will be treated like a king.
Anne's aunt is a senator there. Anne's uncle is a governor there. And all this kind of stuff. So Stan's always telling me,
I will buy you a plane ticket if I can go with you on this
Yeah.
trip,
That's the
because
thing.
that's the best way to go visit a foreign country. Like, I'm still kicking myself for not going to Abu Dhabi when my cousin had a job there as a lawyer, or going to China when my uncle was working there with an airplane company. Like, you need to go to these countries that you have the in at.
yeah, and Stan keeps telling me, he's like, dude, he keeps telling me, you got to go because you there, you have a 24-hour driver, you have this and this, you can go to all the clubs, and
The
like
food.
the money conversion is so favorable, and you got to go. I just can't get on a plane for 13 hours.
Okay, what is it about the plane? Is it that you're
Fear
not
of heights.
physically... Okay, so just don't look at a window.
But I know.
So take
So
a Xanax.
I mean, I've tried. You know what I've done before? Seriously, I've done this before. I have, just on taking trips back to Toronto, if we had like a 8 a.m. flight, I have stayed up all night,
Yeah.
popped 3 times the dosage of my sleeping pills,
Oh.
and I still can't fall asleep on a plane because I'm just too stressed. I cannot fall asleep. I've never fallen asleep on a plane.
Okay, so here's what we do. First of all, we make a lot of money. Then
Step one.
step one, make a
Become
lot of
independently
money.
wealthy.
Then we buy first class tickets on the planes that have the seats that go all the way down.
they're so
because when
luxurious.
I would go to New Zealand for Spartacus, not most of the time, because but I think one time they actually paid for me to fly first class, and I would get on the. First of all, I get a massage at one of those like little spa whatever things in the airport. You just get like a little chair massage for whatever. You do that so your body's nice and relaxed. You have 2 beers in the airport.
I don't drink.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, you won't have the beers, but you get on the airplane, you pop an Ambien, and then right as the dessert is being served of your first class meal, all of a sudden the Ambien starts to kick in, and then you go, okay, can you put my seat back? And they help you put your seat back, and then you have your Westin comforter, and it's all nice and gushy, and your big pillow, and you basically feel, and you have like your walls all around you. Like, that's the way you do it.
So,
You
but
become
isn't
a
that
cloud as you're floating through the air.
Isn't that like $2,500 for a first class
That's why
ticket?
we have to get
We have
rich
to
first.
profit
so
first.
first
You missed
get
step
independently
one. Step
rich.
one, make
so
a
send
lot
in
of
those
money.
super chats. Boop boop boop.
And did you say $2,500?
It might be even more than that.
Oh yeah, it's
Okay,
like
see, I don't know because I've flown first class once because a television network flew me somewhere, but I had no idea how
I
much
think
it
a
cost.
first class trip to Asia can be like more than 5,000.
Well, see, you just made it even more impossible. Okay, right. Step one, independently wealthy. Okay,
Yes,
we gotta
let's
move
make
on.
a lot of money.
We gotta
so
move on.
keep those Patreon checks coming in.
All right, Tim Bula the Spider Monkey writes, I sent this to Rob. I want to get John's opinion. Scorsese is upset that theaters show profitable films, but his latest offering cost $160 million to make of someone else's money and has no chance of breaking even. Again, look, we have talked ad nauseum about the inherent contradictions, like even logical contradictions within Scorsese's theses. Let's thesis at that point. Let's put it that way. So yeah, I mean, look, he should just stop, because even when he's talking about practical things like There's no room in the theaters for real cinema anymore. I'm sorry, the statistics prove that otherwise. Like, comic book movies took up 3% of the screens this year. That means 97% of the screens were left open for all the other movies. So it's just, he's just talking, unfortunately, he's just talking a lot of nonsense. He's one of the greatest filmmakers to ever do it, and always will be, and I can't wait to watch The Irishman. But a lot of his other stuff he's talking is just a lot of nonsense. All right, Randy writes, Sam W. writes, just finished Children of Dune, starting God Emperor today. Do you think they will ever become films? And Rob, who's not here on Thursdays, and Rob, any recommendation for great sci-fi books? It all depends. Now, God Emperor and Children of Dune, these are all sequel books to Dune. And of course, we got Denis Villeneuve right now, who's making his Dune movie. That comes out next year. Cannot wait. It might be my number one most anticipated movie of the year. Whether we think these will ever get, it all depends on how this Dune does. Because Denis Villeneuve also did Blade Runner 2049, which, while a wonderful, wonderful film, tanked and lost them a lot of money. If that happens with Dune, no, you're not going to see God Emperor or Children of Dune. If this movie Dune can make $570 million at the box office, then yeah, there's going to be a lot of conversations about the sequels coming out, so we got to keep our eyes open for that. Randy writes, Iger really compared OK Black Panther to Scorsese's classics and The Godfather. Nice. Dumbo, Maleficent, and Wrinkle in Time movies, Bobby. Well, listen, while absolutely Dumbo, Maleficent, Wrinkle in Time, The Nutcracker, Mary Poppins, the new one, are all subpar films. Make no mistake about that. But Bob Iger was not comparing those movies to those. And I agree with you. I don't think Black Panther compares to Godfather. I think they've made some wonderful, fantastic movies that don't deserve to have the crap being shoved on them by Scorsese and Coppola and others right now. But I also agree that they're not on the same level as those. But that doesn't undermine Bob Iger's point, does it, guys?
I don't think so.
No.
No.
Yeah.
I do want to go back. Randy, you should read Hyperion and Stranger in a Strange Land. Those are my favorite sci-fi books.
Oh, okay. Thanks for throwing that in as well. All right. Let's see.
I'm no Rob, but you know.
Yeah.
My favorite
I'm
sci-fi
literate.
book is Coma from the 70s.
Ooh.
I've never read that.
/ it's the only sci-fi book I've really ever read.
All right. Randy also writes, why the hell did Iger defend with mediocre Black Panther? Well, first of all, Randy,
still talking about
are you still
this?
talking about, number one, mediocre to you? There's a lot of film professionals and in the Academy who thought it was worthy of a Best Picture nomination. I didn't think it was worthy of a Best Picture nomination, but I thought it was great. So remember, it's mediocre to you, but you are not the harbinger of what is quality and what is not. Just keep that in mind. It's not even a top 10 NC movie, let alone comic book movies. Any Scorsese movie is better than Black Panther.
Whoa.
No, that's
hold
not
on.
true either. I'm sorry, Randy. You've
No.
clearly not seen all of Marty Scorsese's movies. Marty Scorsese is as human as anybody. He's had his better days at the office. He's had his worst days at the office. Is Black Panther as good as any of Marty's best movies? I don't think so. I'm with you on that. But let's reel in the hyperbole a little bit there, buddy.
And not only that, as I said off camera, like when Martin Scorsese wants to make a movie that is about anything other than white men in New York and their female accessories, then okay. But you know what? When we have comic book movies and genre films that are elevating people of color and women of color into starring roles and dominating cast and elevating directors of color and female directors of color, you know what? Like, then we can have this conversation. But right now, it's the comic book movies that are actually elevating these directors and these actors to a level that Martin Scorsese apparently doesn't feel is necessary in his own films.
I mean, I think it's
That's
fair
my
to say
opinion.
the one thing about the comic book movies is true is that they are breaking ground that Scorsese never did. And guess what? There will be more filmmakers that come in the future that break new ground that the current batch of directors never did either. So it's just something you got to keep in mind.
I've lived in New York. There's black people there.
Let's see. Disney Milk Machine writes, we will eventually spurt out Star Wars First Jedi. I don't know about that. It's possible. Who knows? Ant Banks 1984 writes, since Dave Chappelle pushed the envelope with his latest stand-up and gave 0 Fs about what people said, do you think this will give Eddie Murphy the courage to be a bit more risque? Here's the thing. I don't know. Have you guys watched the latest Dave Chappelle Netflix stand-up thing?
I have.
What was the name of it again?
I don't remember.
I can't tell you. I didn't like it.
I did. I thought
I
it was,
liked it.
Ann and I just.
I don't know why. Like this is totally wrong of me. I know there are things that Dave Chappelle says that if anyone else said them, I would be like clutching my pearls and just aghast and offensive. But for some reason, when he says them, I think they're hilarious.
You know who that reminds me of? Do you guys ever see Tosh.0?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh
That
my
reminds me of that.
God.
Like,
I've seen
I
Daniel
know.
Tosh
It's
perform
very-
stand-up. He's great.
Yeah, Tosh. Like I watched Dave Chappelle sing, and Dave Chappelle just did very much. Dave Chappelle's funnier than Tosh, I think overall, but I really do like Tosh. But he just did what Tosh has been doing all along. It all depends on how it's delivered. See, I watched Dave Chappelle's thing, and I'm like, I don't think he said anything that risque. Like, as somebody who was like, I watched him doing that, and I said this on the show before. The way Chappelle did the routine to me, and I'm not. I didn't try to see it this way. I'm just saying I watch it, and this is how it hit me.
Yeah.
It felt like, hey, let's all act like friends and bring all of us in on the joke together.
Yes.
And let's all do this. And my wife, who is part Chinese as well, she's mostly Filipino, but she's part Chinese. You know, he did that one thing, that one joke in it where he talked about Asian because his wife's Asian.
Yeah. And
I was like, oh my gosh, I wonder if Ann thought that was funny or she's pissed off. And Ann's like rolling on the floor laughing and stuff like that. So my feeling of Dave Chappelle's thing was not, it wasn't, you know, some people think Chappelle's finally doing something that's like not like it's completely
Right.
anti-PC. And I'm like, it's not that I thought it was PC or anti-PC. It's just that I felt it's like, you know how you make everybody included? Mm-hmm. Let's all joke together. Let's bring everybody in on the joke together. Let's make fun of you. Let's make fun of me. Let's make fun of all of it. And I personally found it very unifying. But then again, I acknowledge I am a straight white dude from Canada. So I look at it with one set of eyes. Mm-hmm. My Asian wife looks at it from another set of eyes. A different person will look at it from another set of eyes. I can only tell you how it hit me.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But what Chappelle did, I think, was different than what like Eddie Murphy Raw was.
Right.
Or Eddie Murphy Delirious. There are some things Eddie Murphy did while in the culture at the time. Mm-hmm. So I don't crap on it. That was super freaking hilarious at the time. There are some things Eddie did at that time that I don't think Eddie Murphy would do today.
No,
Of course.
And he's apologized for.
And some things he's apologized for. And so I don't see there being an equivalency between,
No.
like, say, Delirious and Raw and the Chappelle thing.
No.
But I don't know. But I would still like to see Eddie, you know, be edgy. I still want to see Eddie be edgy, but he, you know, edgy with a little bit more of the wisdom that comes with the age that he has.
But there might also
you
be
can-
things that Dave Chappelle apologizes for 20 years from now. You know, I think that we all continue to grow and develop and, you know, as time goes on and we learn a little bit more about being compassionate, empathetic to our fellow human and things that come out of our mouth that are really insulting and hurtful to people, we go, oh, you know what? Like there's things that I said 20 years ago that if they were repeated to me, I go, oh, wow, that was probably not very, you know, that was not a very kind thing for me to say. And I've grown since then, so I apologize for that. Yeah, I agree with you. With Dave Chappelle, there's something about, I feel like I'm sitting in his living room with him smoking a joint, just like yucking it up, and he's giving observations about the world that are not necessarily always PC, but that are commonly shared observations, versus a comedian getting up and doing a performance of, let me tell you my observation of the world. I feel like Dave Chappelle hears a lot of observations and then delivers it through his own, I don't know, channel. I don't know. I forgive him for a lot of things that I probably wouldn't forgive other people for. I don't know. I don't know why.
It was just a very different sort of, it was a different approach.
There's the video.
Yeah, I just brought it up. For some reason, it went down before. All right, we got to move on here because we're running
we?
behind. James Germain writes, saw the costume, John, best thing ever. So for those of you who don't know what he's talking about, I actually still have it on my desktop here. Hold on a second. Let me I'll bring it over here, see if this will work. Oh, yeah, it's going
What
to work.
people don't know is those actually are your muscles bulging.
Oh, yeah, this is before this is before I added the fake muscles.
Yeah.
I titled this picture Low Budget Shazam. That is clearly low budget Shazam. And my wife, she got a much better, she put together a much better Shazam, like one of the Shazam family costumes. And she looks way better in it than I did. But I just ordered this cheap, low budget, sketchy.
What is on your head? Is that a towel?
He's got a hood.
That's part of his cape. Shazam's cape also has a hood.
No, I know, but it looks like it doesn't look like it's
actually
part of
very comic accurate. The hood is the only comic accurate thing about it. But yeah, so I call that low budget. I saw it when I saw it. You know how much I paid for this thing? Full body, all the stuffing, the cape, the whole bit, the boots. Take a wild guess what I paid for this thing.
$50.
$30.
Really? Where did you get it?
$30 on Amazon. I bought this thing just so I could match Anne's things. I was like,
you look like John Cena in that picture.
Yeah, so this is, ladies and gentlemen.
Calm down, Aaron.
I know. Watch out, Anne. I'm coming for your man.
Low budget Shazam. All right. Let's see here. Angry Irish Benjamin writes, you it up. You. God, you all too. Couldn't tell you a thing what we were just talking about. Angry Irish also follows up and writes, going to see Terminator 6. I'll keep an open mind. I can't even remember what you remember. This, if you're talking about this Terminator, which is getting good reviews, by the way. Terminator, I think it's called Dark Fate, is getting good reviews. They're saying it's the best since Terminator. Remember, technically this is Terminator 3. But they're not calling it that. But this Terminator pretends like all the other Terminator stuff that came after Terminator 2 does not exist.
Good.
And they're doing this. And the reviews so far have been pretty solid. So let's see how it turns out. Angry Irish also writes, either way, I hope Terminator does well. Paramount really needs to rebuild their credibility as a company and their trust with the general audience. I see, here's to me, Angry Irish, I don't know if it's a credibility issue because in the midst of their dry streak, they've made a couple of good films that just haven't performed well. And then they've made some not so good films that haven't performed well. And we've been talking for the past year about Paramount really needs a hit. And then they come out with Gemini Man that could lose them up to $100 million. That is just tanking. So, and I'll be honest with you, I don't think it doesn't matter how good this Terminator movie is, and I'm hoping it's great. It's not going to make a lot of money. It could be profitable, but it's not going to make a lot of money.
Why do you say that?
Too many people. It was just 3 years ago that we got Genesis. That was terrible. And then before that, we got a Terminator movie that was terrible. And before that, we got a Terminator movie. Like, it's just been too many years that I just think there's just too many people now at this point that are done with Terminator.
So I think that's what Angry Irish is talking about the rebuilding the reputation of the franchise.
Maybe of the franchise. Yeah, I don't think it's a studio, but maybe you're right. Maybe we're talking about it as a franchise because maybe this will be a first step. Just make a great one. If the movie's great, even if it doesn't make money, that's still good news. Because it could mean they can make another one later with a little bit of a better grounding. But
I will say the trailer for this one is the first Terminator trailer that I've been excited about in a very long time. The previous trailers have been like, meh, but this one I went, oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, at least not the one with the I'm Going Hunting song in it. Orange Hand writes, question for Rob, if he's there. Rob's never here on Thursdays, just so you know. Well, I mean, it's once in a while he has been. My friend has written a few comic scripts, but can't draw or afford to hire an artist. Do you have any advice?
I bet Chris would have some great advice for this, too.
Stop writing comics, then. I mean, listen.
Or there's that.
Or it's just that. I mean, look. I have also listen. I wrote a novel. I wrote a novel called the Pride, and I wanted to turn it into a graphic novel. But I can't draw, and I can't afford to pay an artist to do it. Well, then, too bad. Like you can say, I have a dream of winning the Stanley Cup. That's hockey for many of you.
Oh, okay.
I have a dream of winning the Stanley Cup. And I want to win the Stanley Cup someday. But I can't skate, and I have no interest in learning how to skate. Okay, well, then move on to the next dream. So I would say if you either need to do a couple things. Number one, if you really believe in the script, Because I always tell people, if you've got a goal, do something every day, no matter how big or how small, moves you slightly closer towards that goal, no matter what it is. Put 1 quarter into a piggy bank today and do that for the next 4 or 5 years. Start putting money away, little bit. Put away $100 a month. Or if it needs to be less than that, then it's less than that. Put away $75 a month. Skip on eating out, do whatever. If it's your goal and your dream to turn this comic script into an actual physical comic book, then do what you need to do. Sacrifice what you need to sacrifice. Take the steps you need. Everybody fucking wants to hear how to easily get to do what I want to do. But if you really want to do it, make the sacrifices you need to make to do it. And be patient enough to accept that it may take. Listen, I know we're all instant gratification. Oh, what can I do right now to get what I want? That's not how you get it. If you really want to do it, put aside $100 a month, sacrifice all the things you need to sacrifice to be able to do that. And then in 4 or 5 years, when you got 5, 6, maybe you're able to put a little extra in every couple of months, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000. At that point, you take that money. You're not going to be able to hire a great artist at that rate, but go hire somebody who's got some artistic skill and talent, a little bit of experience in that's not making a lot of money doing it, and you can offer them so much, then do it. You just got to be willing to do what you need to do it. And that's the best. So my best advice is either, if you can't afford it and you can't draw yourself, either move on from that and stop doing it, or start doing the things you need to be able to do those things. Take 5 years of art classes. Start saving $100 a month for 5 or 6 years, and then do it. But if you don't got the patience for it, and you don't have the discipline to do it, then move on to something else. That's just the harsh truth of that. I don't know. Am I being too negative here, Aaron? You looked at me like I was just telling some kid that Santa Claus wasn't real.
Well, I feel like there's another option as well, which is a collaboration. You know, artists always have to pull from different things. As an actor, I can't just act in a vacuum. I mean, sure, I can tap dance in front of my bathroom mirror, but until I collaborate with someone, I don't have an opportunity to share my art. So if somebody's not willing to hire me, I have to go and do student films or, theater for no money, or like all the things that I did in the beginning of my career, just so that I can do what I want to do. Maybe there is a workshop, maybe there's a class, maybe there's, go and seek out, if you live in a town where there is a college, go and, put a flyer up, like looking for an artist to collaborate for a comic book, because there may be a budding artist who loves doing comic book art that is just looking for a writer that they can add their talent to. And if you're willing to find a partner, then you guys could actually potentially have a great thing going. And then you split whatever the profits, if there are any. That would be, Chris, you were shaking your head. I mean, this is more your wheelhouse than mine, being in animation. So that's just my initial thought, is find a collaborator.
I'm glad you brought up paying someone, John, because at first I was like, what are you saying? Elton John couldn't write lyrics, so he found someone to do that. Like, no, don't squash on this boy's dreams. Mm-hmm. Because you can always find somebody. Jeff Loeb doesn't draw those comics. Tim Sale does. You should pay your artist. You should always pay your artist. But at the beginning, like Aaron was saying, you sometimes gotta pay those dues. I did all those student films. I did so many spec commercials where I maybe got credit and footage and a hot meal. But if you can go find someone who can collaborate with you at the beginning like that. I know down here in downtown LA, there is a drinking draw night every week at a bar here. I'm trying to find the name of the bar. I can't find it. I can't remember it. Because Logan's written a comic book and he had somebody else do the art for it. You can go out there and network and find people. But like John was saying, you got to go look for it. You do have to earn it. So you don't have to give up on this. You just have to do the right moves.
Give up. Give up.
But here's the thing. I also agree with John.
But
hold on. I'm a big believer in this. If you can give up, you should give up.
Oh, that's true.
Because the number of people in the beginning of my career who told me to give up, like, I think that I will encourage anyone if they're like, acting's hard. I'm like, you should definitely move back to Montana and like sell Avon.
Yeah.
Do it. Because if you can give up, you should give up. It's the people who, no matter how many times they're told no, and no matter how many times they're told to give up, refuse to give up and can't give up and won't give up. Those are the people who have a career.
I'm not saying, look, I'm saying if it's important to you.
Yeah, no, I'm
don't
not
give
disagreeing
up.
with anything you're saying.
I just find that a lot of people who say they have dreams, what they really want is quick fixes and instant gratification.
Okay, that's fair.
And
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
aren't willing to put in the work to do it. So, like I said,
before they've even written their first screenplay,
Yeah,
they're
like-
trying to get an agent.
Yes. No, like I just had somebody very well-meaning, but somebody just wrote to me, I'm starting a podcast. How do I get an audience? It's like, you're asking the wrong question right
Start
now.
a podcast first.
Yeah, do a podcast for a while. Worry about making a good podcast. You see, and I'm also like, I'm keenly, because I have no artistic talent at all.
I don't believe that.
Oh, you should see me try to draw something. I like none.
Oh, well, that
I
kind
can
of artist.
dance.
I can scrub. I can dance, but I struggle to
dance.
do a very rough Garfield. Anyway.
Oh, yeah, I'm not a very good. I can't draw.
But
That's okay.
I wanted to turn my story into a graphic novel, but when I realized it's going to take me a couple of years of putting money aside, because I also don't like trying to get people to work for free, especially as somebody who's not a good artist. I know people are artists, and I know how long and how many hours it takes to draw one picture, let alone 40 pages filled with 18 pictures each. You know. So I realized, what will I have to do to make this happen? I will have to set aside X amount of dollars for X amount of time to make it happen. And then I had to just evaluate, is that worth it to me? Is it that important to me that I go through this sort of sacrifice and go through what I need to do to make it happen? Is it that important to me? And I realized I want it, but it's not that important to me.
Right.
So I ditched the idea. And what I want to say to this guy is, you can do it. It's just going to require some time and sacrifice. Is it important enough to you that you are willing to do what you need to do to make it happen? Because there's always ways to make it happen. Just sometimes it'll take more sacrifice than other times. And I think that's true whether you're trying to get a comic book going, you're trying to get a career in law, whether you're trying to act, whether you're trying to do YouTube, whether you're trying to ever. Are you
Anything.
willing to do what it actually takes to get it done?
Oh, yeah.
And other than that, then move on to something else. Find something else that gets your heart pumping and all that kind of stuff, that you have you're already positioned a little bit better to do something. Anyway, we spent way too much time on this. We got to keep moving on here. Let's see here. Justin the Movie Nerd writes, "Hi, John and crew. I think a spot on Weekly Hero featuring collectibles would be cool. Viewers could submit a short video to show off their stuff. Ordered the Iron Studios Ghost Rider set. That would be amazing."
Ooh.
I see. Here's the thing. We always had on the Weekly Hero a segment where Rob has hundreds of these big, gorgeous collectible pieces, and we would feature one every week. Both weeks, I'm going to throw Rob under the bus on this. Both weeks we were supposed to do that. Both weeks we've now have 2 episodes of Weekly Hero up since we started back up. We were supposed to do that, but Rob just, number one, he forgot to bring in the footage, and then the second time, a half hour before the show started, he emailed me the footage in 10 separate pieces that I did not have time. I did not have time.
Here you go, John.
A half hour
Here
before
you
the
go.
show to pull in together, edit together, render it, because I was doing other things to get ready for the show. So we finally worked it. Rob, this is what I need you to do, buddy. You need to do this. Bring me that footage, and then we can work it into the show. So we are going to have that as a part of Weekly Hero
That's
moving
like
forward.
showing up to someone's Thanksgiving potluck with all the ingredients for stuffing.
Oh, you would be so surprised.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Next one off is Willow Yang, who writes, "You've talked about how some actors are paid far too much. True. Now that stars don't seem to be big office draws anymore, do you think that will change?" Well, it's funny because in a topic that we discussed yesterday, it already is changing. Like, there was a day when Jim Carrey, good Canadian kid, was demanding $20 million a film. Now, maybe this is because I'm from Canada. I don't know. To me, the only reason you should be making $20 million for 2 months of work is if the letters DR are before your name and you just took a motorcycle accident victim and turned him from facing paralysis for the rest of his life into being able to walk and jump and play with his kids again. That's just me. That goes for more than just acting. That goes for a lot of different things. But $20 million, I've always thought that was much. I think actors should be handsomely paid for their work. I think like in any other trade, depending on the scale of how much you bring to the project and all that kind of stuff, absolutely. But yes, I do think the days of, the top 20 actors pulling in 20 million per film, in the new reality, I think that's going to become more reasonable. Because remember, when one actor's pulling in, the universe is in balance. When one actor is pulling in $20 million, do you know, I remember the story, Dumb and Dumber.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do you know how much Jeff Daniels got paid for Dumb and Dumber?
Damn sure wasn't 20 million.
It wasn't even 1 million.
But Jim Carrey did.
Oh, Jim Carrey got a hell of a lot of money for that.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the reason, and Jeff Daniels has talked about this, and Jeff Daniels bears no ill will about it. He goes, that was the business. But they had a certain amount of money that they could spend on the actors' salaries. And it was a situation of, because so much went to Jim, which is, hey, Jim's great. Mm-hmm. He loves Jim Carrey. There was only so much left over for somebody else. Jeff Daniels is every bit of responsible for the brilliance of that. And so when one actor makes that much, it really, in a universe of balance, it means there is less of the budget left for other actors as well. Mm-hmm. Not that I think everybody should be paid the same. No, certain people bring more to the table than others. Absolutely. I'm just saying, that type of disparity, I think we're already seeing that disappear.
But and also, it's not even just the lead actor, because so Jeff Daniels didn't make $20 million. Somebody might argue, yeah, but he still made $1 million or close to $1 million, whatever. It's not just those actors; it's the journeyman actors, of which I consider myself one at this point, who go from film to film or TV show to TV show and rely on making a living wage after taxes and commissions. Because let's remember, whatever an actor is getting paid, they're also taking 10% out for their agent off the top, 10% out for their manager off the top, 5% out for their, most people who have normal jobs do not have to take 25% of the gross before taxes are taken out. So, if you think about what your paycheck is, take 25% of the gross, and that's what is going on with actors. So you have a lot of these journeyman actors that are coming in for a week on the film, 2 weeks on the film. They're the ones that are really getting screwed. They're the ones that are having to be local hires and put themselves up in their sister-in-law's on their sister-in-law's couch and take Ubers to and from set because they don't have a rental car. Like, those are the actors that really suffer when someone's like, no, I need my $20 million. What I say is, if you are a $20 million a picture actor, take back end points. Say, you know what, I'm going to save some of the budget on the front end so that you can pay all the other actors a living wage. But if the film does well because my name is attached to it, that's when I want to make my money.
Yep.
And you'll end up making more money if the film does well. And if the film doesn't do well, then I guess your name isn't as valuable as you think it is. In which case, you shouldn't be making $20 million for it in the first place.
Yeah. So, yeah. I was giving my spiel on that, and I thought, I didn't know if you were going to kill me for saying that. All right.
No.
Let's see. Matthew Grant writes, one of two. Was at Maleficent 2 at AMC last night, and the sound went midway. Oh, that's really unfortunate. Due to snow weather issues with the power. They got it fixed really fast, and to my surprise, they were actually able to restart the quote-unquote chapter, kind of like a DVD chapter, so we could rewatch it from where it went out. Well, that's because the vast majority of movie theaters today, thankfully, are no longer film strips. Like, it's their digital files, they can fix it. The funny thing is, this comes up every once in a while. We hear stories about how the movie turned off halfway through, or the sound went off. When you consider that probably there's 30 to 40,000 screenings a day in the United States, I'm not shocked to hear things like that happen. I'm shocked it doesn't happen more often.
Yeah.
Like, how hard is it to make scrambled eggs? I do it a lot. But I have a certain percentage of times that I accidentally had a shell get in, I put in too much cheese, whatever, too much mayo on it, whatever. And it just so happens, no, I'm just kidding, I don't actually put mayo on my scrambled eggs. I'm just kidding. I do love my mayo, but I do not put mayo on my eggs. Anyway, Sorry, I just about gave Chris a heart attack. So
It's gonna be like, what happens here?
what's going on? I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often when you
Yeah.
really consider like how many times it goes. But good, that's great. I'm really glad to hear that. And by the way, shout out. I was giving AMC a lot of crap yesterday, but a little bit of shout out to my local AMC. We had an issue once where the picture went out for about 15 seconds of the movie. They stopped it, backed it up about a minute before it went out, and then played that all again, and then the rest of the movie went through. And then as we were leaving the theater, the manager of the theater was standing at the door as we were walking out, handing out like $15 gift cards to everybody, saying, "We are so sorry for the
Wow.
inconvenience you guys had watching our movie." I thought,
Very
that's
classy.
really classy. So I give AMC a lot of crap sometimes, and all movie theaters, but that was pretty classy. And I'm surprised it doesn't happen. Matthew writes, "Oh no, we got it, Matthew. Don't worry about it."
I
We know
love
what
that
you're saying."
Matthew paid $2 to just do a little
Just to
typo
correct
correction.
himself. I know.
Thanks,
Aw.
Matthew.
That's very considerate, actually. Johnny Granada writes, "Seen Dark Fate twice now. Favorite film since Endgame." Listen, I'm hearing good things about it. I'm hearing good, not perfect things, but the general refrain we've been hearing is that it is the best since Terminator 2. Now, that's not a high bar. Best since Terminator 2 is not a high bar. There's not been a lot of excellence in the world of Terminator since Terminator 2. But still, it's at least a good thing to hear. Anurag Anoy writes, Iger really snapped harder than Thanos, Hulk, and Tony. He really did. Every once in a while, Daddy's got to just lay the law down. All right, Anthony Luculano writes, 1 of 3. Just bought this seriously cool Alfred Hitchcock movie box set called The House of Hitchcock.
Oh, wow.
Which includes 14 of his films: Saboteur, Shadow of a Doubt, Rope.
So good.
None of people seen that, by the way. Rear Window, The Trouble with Harry, The Man Who Knew Too Much, Vertigo, Psycho 1960, The Birds, Marine, Torn Curtain, Topaz. I'm not familiar with Topaz, to be honest with you.
I'll look that up.
Frenzy and Family Plot. Also includes documentaries, expert commentaries, interviews, screen tests, original letters, storyboards, blueprints, and more. Holy
Wow.
crap! Okay, look, I'm not a physical media guy. I'm not a physical media guy. I haven't been for a very, very long time. But I gotta look this
Yeah,
crap
that
up.
sounds
Yeah.
like a really
That sounds
good
so great.
Christmas present holiday present for anyone who is a fan of films. I
would
wonder
take-
if there's the story about Alfred Hitchcock and Tallulah Bankhead when she was getting onto the boat in a lifeboat, and and one of the crew members came up and said, "Mr. Hitchcock, Miss Bankhead is not wearing any underwear," and he paused for a moment and said, "Trying to think if this is a problem for wardrobe or hair."
It's one of the great. That's like sounds. Just watching all that extra stuff sounds like a weekend.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure.
A good weekend in. Oh my God, that sounds great. Well done. Again, I'm not big into purchasing physical media, but that's something that I could see myself buying. Thanks for putting that on our radar, Anthony, because that sounds
Topaz
really,
is a spy scandal, by the way.
a spy scandal. Yeah,
About
I've not heard
Soviet
of that one.
intelligence officers.
Topaz.
Topaz. It's funny.
Yeah.
I like to think I thought I saw like all of Hitchcock's
Same.
films,
I've
but-
never heard of that.
Okay. Anyway, let's see here. This is a placeholder name writes. A little while ago, somebody in a super chat recommended And God Spoke. It seemed interesting, so I watched it and loved it. Have you seen it? I have not. But listen, I remember that. This is one of the reasons why I love when people send in recommendations. Because, and I bring this up a bunch, a lot of times I don't have time to watch all the things that people recommend, obviously. But I often get messages like this one, either on Twitter in the comments and saying, yo, somebody recommended this anime on their weekly anime. And I went to go, never heard of it, checked it out. It was awesome. I love that within this community, we got people making these recommendations because you're not just making it to me. You're making it to the 30,000 other people watching the show. And a lot of those people are going to check out those recommendations, which is one of the reasons why I love that. So thanks for sharing that placeholder name. Anthony Luculano writes, oh, we already got that. Placeholder name also writes, it's a mockumentary about a director making a biblical epic, and it's too expensive, so he has to make budget cuts and sponsorships for the Bible. Okay, that sounds amazing. I am so on board for that.
How have I not seen this?
And God Spoke.
And God Spoke.
I love a mockumentary.
I'm going to have to keep my eye open for that because that sounds like gold. All right, Chris Hunt writes, there was only one showing of Jay and Silent Bob reboot at Cineplex last week and no other shows in sight. Dying to see this movie. What's on the go? So what happened was, and Kevin Smith has talked about this, it only played in theaters for 2 nights. Jay and Silent Bob, the new one, because he said he couldn't justify the marketing budget it was going to take to distribute this movie in a lot of theaters and to have a full theatrical run. He said we just couldn't come up with that money. And we know how much money Jay and Silent Bob movies make, and we weren't going to be able to make enough on it to justify a marketing spend. So what they did instead was they put it in theaters for 2 nights, and then they're going on tour with it. And that's how they're going to make their money back on the movie. So that's probably why you saw that situation, Chris. All right, Anthony Lucolano also writes, this is one extremely happy film fan. Well, I would be too, dude, if I got that box set. You can get that for me any Christmas you want. All right, Dave Atkins writes, worst movie downtime, Quicksilver. Worst movie downtime, Quicksilver in Dark Phoenix or Channing Tatum in Kingsman 2. I don't know what you mean by downtime.
When they're incapacitated? Because I know Channing Tatum is out for a lot of Kingsman 2.
Yeah, he's like top billed in that movie. He's in the movie for like 10 minutes.
He dances a little bit and then is out. I don't know.
And you're right. Yeah, and Quicksilver.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe that's what you mean. I'll say Channing Tatum in Kingsman 2. Mostly because, again, I've always been frustrated with that movie that he was basically a top-line build guy in that movie. He's in all the posters and he was in all the trailers and he's like in the movie for 10 minutes. So to me, that is the bigger offense in my opinion.
Yeah. Anthony
Lucolano writes, tomorrow night I'm going to a special screening of The Last Starfighter. Oh
wow.
My God.
Where's that?
Yeah, well, yeah, what city's that in? First of all, there have been talk. I remember I covered a story about a year ago that somebody picked up the rights and they were going to try to develop a Last Starfighter reboot, which I am all for. Actually, it's like I'm okay with any movie getting rebooted. I'm totally okay with it. But there are a couple of movies that I would actually be excited to see rebooted. The Last Starfighter is one of them because, number one, it would so benefit from modern technology. That so benefit. But number two, video games are far more dominant today than they even were when Last Starfighter came out. Yeah. There's so much you could do with that. What do? We die. That movie is so good. I love The Last Starfighter. Have you guys seen it?
Yes, I love it. Oh, good old Alex.
You've never seen Last Starfighter? Oh, it's so great.
It's fun. That's a remake I definitely could get behind because the technology meets what you need right now.
So the basic of it is this.
Okay.
So there's this young guy, lives in a trailer park. By young, I mean, I think he's getting ready to go off to college.
Okay.
He lives in a trailer park with his family. I think they're like the caretakers of the trailer park. And they've got one video game machine there. And I can't remember what the name of the game is, but basically it's a spaceship. Space fighter simulator where you're fighting all this stuff.
Is it like an Atari system?
No, it's like a stand-up video arcade game system.
An arcade game.
Yeah,
okay.
So standing there at the office, and he plays it all the time, and he's great at it. Turns out that video game was actually created by an alien species meant to mimic the actual cockpit of their starfighters. And they send this game out throughout the galaxy to see if there's any really gifted starfighter pilots out there. And they find this kid who is like tremendous at this game, and he is. There's a starfighter legion that defends the galaxy, and they've all been wiped out, and now this kid is the last hope of the universe. He is the last starfighter. And they come and get him, and they take him into outer space, and they actually put him in the cockpit of the ship, and now he has to fight against this evil empire. It's as awesome as it sounds.
So Isn't there a series that has that exact same basic premise with the kid from Hunger Games?
You're talking about the one that Seth Rogen produced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a comedy.
It kind of takes. It took its lead from Last Starfighter.
Okay, got it. Yeah, because you're saying this, and I'm like, that sounds really familiar. Okay, yeah.
Josh Hutcherson.
Yes. Yeah.
And that wasn't bad. That's not a bad little show, too.
It's
but
fun.
The Last Starfighter did it first.
Oh, I see.
And it's
okay.
so
All right. It
God,
sounds fun. I'll watch
Anthony,
that.
I am so jealous of you, buddy. Yeah. I am so jealous of you. All right. Matsif Jada writes, a new Box Office Mojo site looks worse. You know what? So for those of you who don't know, Box Office Mojo, which is a great place to go and get all your... Let me bring it up here. I'll see if I can bring it up on screen. They just did a redesign. Let me see if I can get it here. I'm not sure that I can. They just did a redesign. And... I'll be honest with you. Here's the thing. Whenever a website does something new, everybody freaks out.
Yeah.
I remember me and Dennis Zen, we would always joke about, but it was totally true. We would always joke about, like when we would change the style of a lower third on the nameplate that comes on the bottom of our screen, right? We would slightly make a change to that. And we would joke, there's going to be riots about that, right?
Yeah.
And sure enough, we would get all... When you change anything on a website or whatever, people get up in arms about it. I will admit, when I first saw the redesign on Box Office Mojo, I was like, because it's not what I know. It's different. It's different. I don't like different, right? But the more I'm using it, I'm like, actually, this is actually more intuitive. It doesn't look great, but I don't go to Box Office Mojo for the aesthetic. I think the information is actually laid out really well, and it's growing on me. It is growing on me. So I'd say give it a chance, Matt. Give it a chance.
For a first pass, just looking at it, it's very clean. The lines are very specific. It is there to say this is information in a very easy to read way, whether you're looking at it at a desktop or on an iPhone. We want to make this as easy to get the information as possible. And I like that.
Yeah,
I think it's very clean,
it
streamlined.
is a very, very clean look. So it's grown on me. Just give it a chance. Give it a chance. All right. Brandon Blake writes, will Ellis be reprising his role? In episode 9 to get justice for Kanja Club? Tell that to Kanja Club. Hold a second. Let me see if I can bring this up. For those of you who don't know this, and let me see if I can find him, because I'm not sure that I can. All right. Yeah, there he is. I remember when we first saw this movie, for those of you who know my buddy Mark Ellis, when we went to go see Star Wars Episode 7,
Chris, you've changed.
Me.
when we went to go see this...
Did you guys like my brogue in it?
Let me
Sorry,
see.
John.
There's something wrong with this. Oh, there he is. I mean, this one still doesn't quite capture it, but when he came on screen, I am telling you what, people all across the world thought that was Mark Ellis. Like Mark to this day still gets it. Like Mark, I'm sure he's so tired of it, but like for years now, Mark Ellis has got say Kanja Club to Mark all the time. So yeah, there's that little bit thing in there, I suppose. All right, let's move on to the next thing here. I didn't even realize what time it was. We gotta let you guys go, but let's get through this last thing here first. Chi-Town Rules 09 writes, the experience of seeing Knives Out last night in Chicago was amazing. Said some words to Johnson. Glad to see him get love for this film after what was a lot of the Star Wars fandom thinks of him now. A triple plus film. You know
this
what's
person
funny?
wrote in yesterday and said they were going. We were super jealous.
Man.
I had a buddy of mine who used to write for Coming Soon, one of my favorite sites, Coming Soon. A buddy of mine was an editorialist there for a long time. His name's Ed. I saw Ed just saw the film, and he wrote about it. He goes, no, this is the best movie of the year. Now, we've heard other people say other movies, but still, I'm hearing it held for a long time 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's not at 100% anymore, but I'm hearing nothing but ridiculously good things about this movie. And I am stoked to see it. Like, have either of you guys had a chance to watch it yet? Because
Not yet, but I'm
there have been
looking
a
forward
couple
to
of
it.
advanced
This is my
screenings.
most hyped movie for the year. I'm so much more excited about this than anything else.
I'm very excited about it as well. All right, guys, we're going to keep going here, answering some more questions, but Chris and Aaron got to take off. They got things they need to go and do. So,
I have to go to the bathroom.
well, first of all, there's that. So, Aaron, other than that little duty,
It's not a duty, John.
Where can people find you online?
You can find me at Aaron L. Cummings on Instagram. And you can also listen to my lovely voice on my podcast. It's called Kappa Kappa Cancer, your guide to the sorority you never wanted to join. Find it on iTunes and give me 5 stars, please.
And, of course, Chris Carr. Chris, where can people find you during your duty?
During my duty?
Yeah.
It's none of your business, y'all. It's private. You can find me online at actor Chris Carr on Twitter and on Instagram, or you can head over to Nerdwire on YouTube and watch my essays there. We cover all kinds of things like Steven Universe. Those are my main things right now. And this week, I get to watch Gargoyles, so come watch that stuff with me. Yeah!
All right, guys, thanks for being here, guys, and we will talk to you guys later. But for the rest of you savages, it's time for us to keep on going here. We still got a bunch of questions to get through. We got about another 20 minutes, so let's keep right on rolling here. Fuzzy FJ writes, for a long time, I never went to the movie theaters because I waited for them on DVD. Marvel movies are the reason why I started going, and also I started seeing movies other than comic book films. Fuzzy, you just bring up a great point, because one of the things I wish people would remind Scorsese of is that theater attendance has been dropping. And the only thing, not the only thing, but one of the main things that has been keeping people going to the theaters are these movies, but not just to see these movies. It's number one. My mom talks about this, like going to the movies to see these things, that gets her in the practice of going to the movies, and it makes her feel good about going to the movies to see other films too. But beyond that, Fuzzy, I've had so many people tell me that, you know what? I got AMC A-list for Infinity War, or I got AMC A-list for Endgame, or I got AMC A-list for whatever. And now that I have A-list, and I got it because of the comic book movies, now that I have A-list, I go to see other movies now that I wasn't interested in before, but now I go see them because I can go see them. So maybe instead of crapping on these movies, maybe the words you're looking for are thank you. Thank you for enticing more people to come back to the theaters. Thank you for getting more people into movies, so now they're seeing movies they otherwise maybe wouldn't have gone to see before. So maybe the words, instead of despicable, maybe the phrase you're looking for is thank you. And I think you just made a great example of that, Fuzzy. So thank you for bringing that up, man. I appreciate it. All right. Fuzzy also writes, oh, can I just say your thoughts on walks is super great. Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that. I love the one with the Bible reference. Inspiring, mate. Thanks. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And yeah, I really enjoy my thoughts on walks. I do. Like I do 5 miles a day, which is what that's not a big, that sounds like a big number. It's actually not that big of a number, but they say you're supposed to get in 10,000 steps a day, right? That roughly works out to 5 miles. So I get in my 5 miles every day. And I just remember I was on my walks once. I thought, I should make some productive use of my time. I should talk about the things I think about while I'm walking. So I started doing thoughts on walks. And I didn't think anybody would watch it, but we've been getting really good responses for it. So watch for the next thoughts on walks either later today or maybe even tomorrow, depending on when I do my next one. So thank you for that, Fuzzy. I appreciate the kind words. All right. Vivek writes, priceless moment. Rob's expression in response to John's rants on fans being forced to watch movies in 3D. I just died laughing. Wonderful show. Well, thanks so much. First of all, how great is Robert Meyer Burnett? I love having him on the show. I love being able to work with him almost every day. It's such a great pleasure, and he adds so much to it. So thank you for the kind words. Ryan Lohner writes, Castle Rock Season 2 is a huge improvement, much more engaging characters, including Stephen King royalty, Tim Robbins. I've heard that. I've heard that Season 2 is actually really, really quite good. And Ann and I were talking last night. It's like, yeah, we should probably get into that. Because we're all caught up on Mayans now. We're all caught up on Mayans. So I think that's what we're going to have to get into next is probably Castle Rock Season 2, Ryan. Thank you for the recommendation, brother. All right. Kyle McCaskill writes, I'm shooting a documentary about comic book fans and politics. I'm finding that although comic fans say they hate politics, they are either in line with conservative Republicans or conservative libertarian. Here's the thing. First of all, Kyle, I think it's a great subject matter to do a documentary on. Here's the thing. And this is true of everybody, whether you're on the left, whether you're on the right, there is a massive hypocrisy. And here's what it is. And I throw everybody into this, okay? Everybody. A lot of people will say, I don't want to hear about politics. What they really mean, and I mean people on the left and people on the right, what they really mean is I don't want to hear about politics that aren't in line with my already existing views on politics. That's what they really mean. Normally when I hear somebody say, I don't want to hear about politics, what they're saying that is in response to something that isn't in line with their own political values. So when somebody says, I don't want to hear about politics, what I know they really mean is, I don't want to hear about politics that aren't in line with my existing policies. Because when some politics gets talked about, they won't complain as long as it's something that's in line with their pre-existing political values. If it's something that's outside of their political values, and again, let me emphasize again, I throw everybody in. I think people on the right and left are guilty of this. Once something gets talked about that's outside of their existing political values, then they say, I don't want to talk about politics. So... I think, Kyle, that's a fascinating thing to make a documentary about. because I think we all have a little bit of hypocrisy when it comes to that. Me, on my YouTube channel, I just don't talk politics. I don't like talking about politics in my show. We're here to be all movie fans together. I don't care if you are way politically left or way politically right. I don't care. We're here to be movie fans. We'll argue and bicker with each other outside of this later on other channels and whatever. We can do that later. But when we come here into this house, we put all that aside. We're all movie fans. We're all movie fans. And that's what matters. Now, don't get me wrong. I've said this before. I'll say it again. There are certain issues that I have never considered to be political issues. Human equality, things like that. Those aren't political issues. Those are human issues. There are some things like that I take that very seriously. But outside of that, I just love that we get to all be film fans together. You and I may disagree on a lot of stuff when we get outside of the realm of film. Like, as a great example of that is a friend of mine, Vic Holterman, who is a wonderful dude. I've always loved Vic. Vic was the founder and creator, and for many years, the main guy running Screen Rant. Screen Rant, in my opinion, has gone downhill a bit since Vic stepped away from it. But Vic started Screen Rant right about the same time that I started the movie blog. And so we were in touch very early together, and I just think he's a terrific dude. You would have a hard time finding somebody who is more my political opposite than Vic Holterman is. You'd have a very hard time finding somebody who is more my political opposite than Vic. And you know what? Sometimes we would get into discussions about all that kind of stuff. But we shared a love of movies together. We shared a deep love of movies together. And that's why I always looked forward to when I knew he was going to be in town or we were going to be at the same convention together and I would have a chance to talk to him or whatever. I always just enjoyed that very, very, very much. And that's what I kind of hope this channel can be. I hope. I'm sure there are times I fail at it. I'm sure I have. Just as I do in everything else in my life. There are things I fail at. And that's fine. But I kind of hope that. So I think that sounds like a fascinating topic, Kyle. I really do. All right. Anyway, Derek Woodron writes, hey, everybody. Glad No Pants Thursdays are back. Question for Aaron and Chris, who unfortunately you just missed. What acting techniques have you studied and what made them tough for you? So I can't even remotely. Sometimes when people ask questions for our guests who have already left, I try to answer them myself. Unfortunately, and clearly, that's not something I can do. But what I would recommend, Derek, we put both of their Twitter handles up. I would recommend just tweeting that question out to them and see what they have to say. That's probably the best thing to do at this point. But thank you for sending that in, Derek. All right. Alex Pitt writes, I saw Terminator Dark Fate last night. It wasn't great, but it was pretty enjoyable. And it's been a while since I said that about a Terminator film. And you know what? At the end of the day, Alex, that's all I ask. Give me a movie experience that I had a good time at. It doesn't have to be The Godfather. It doesn't have to be Star Wars. Just give me an enjoyable experience. And it's okay if it's not as good as Terminator 2. It's okay if it's not as good as... Just make it good. Make it so I enjoy myself. And if I can get that same experience that you seem to have, Alex, I'll be a happy camper. Because unfortunately... we have not been getting those experiences with the Terminator film, so hopefully this is the one that gives it. All right. Rashawn Daly writes, could we see Iden Versio of, I don't know what BF2 is, played by, I don't know how to pronounce that name, in The Mandalorian, since the new games are canon stories and fits the timeline of the Disney Plus show? Oh, Battlefront 2. Oh, you're talking about the main, the Imperial girl. Okay, that's what you're talking about. Okay, didn't know what we were talking about there for a second. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Again, this whole Disney thing, they've kind of backed off from that. Like I remember when Disney first took over, and by the way, guys, I'm going to be putting in, I'm going to be taking a Halls, and I know it's a little bit annoying hearing somebody talk when they've got some like a candy in their mouth. I apologize, but I think it's better than me coughing more because the more I'm doing the show, the harder that gets. So forgive me. I apologize in advance. when Disney first took over Star Wars, they made this thing about everything that we produce here on out is all going to be canon. The comic books are going to be canon. The novels are going to be canon. The video games are going to be canon. The movies are going to be canon, obviously. Whatever you do on television is going to be canon. They've backed off from that now. Because they started doing things in some of the books. It's like, wait a minute. What you just said in this one novel completely contradicts what was in a movie. I thought you said everything was canon. And then they go, well, everything is canon except for when it's not canon. It's like, what does that mean? You're not pregnant. You're not sort of pregnant. You're either pregnant or you're not pregnant. Right? There's no sorta. It's something's canon or it's not canon. And it seems like they've been backing off from that because they know you can't do it. It's just too hard. It's just too hard. So I'm going to say this, Rashawn. It's not impossible. It's certainly not impossible. After all, we're seeing the ship, the Ghost, pop up in Rogue One. Why not this too? I'm going to say I don't think it will. I doubt it. But I wouldn't say it's impossible, so we'll have to wait and see. All right, Scooby-Doo writes, over under 25%. Ben Kingsley appears in Shang-Chi. I'm going to say under 25%. But if you were to say 5%, I'd take the over on that. So I don't think there's a good chance it happens. I'll go under 25%, but a chance? I won't be shocked. I won't be shocked. Rugo Kelvin writes, Terminator Dark Fate is okay. Just seen... I don't know what AVPR got. Please don't use abbreviations because then I got to sit here and struggle with it. But hey, it's good to hear that it's at least okay because we have not said that about a lot of Terminator films recently. Jared Oberfeld writes, hey, Rob, who is not here on Thursdays, I'll go ahead and hand over the W to your Seahawks. They probably have it right now anyway. You guys can take Dan Quinn back to Seattle too. I'm not quite sure who they're playing this weekend. Man, I got to tell you though, I like Pete Carroll's brand of football. When Pete Carroll came back into the NFL and took over the Seahawks, I started following the Seahawks. I'm a weird guy who I kind of follow coaches. That's when a lot of people ask me, John, when did you become a Patriots fan? I've actually became a Patriots fan when Bill Parcells, this is all the way back when I was a kid, when Bill Parcells, whose New York Giants beat my Buffalo Bills in that first time the Bills went to the Super Bowl, I kind of became a fan of Bill Parcells. So when he went and took over as coach of the New England Patriots, this is when, why am I freezing on the name of the guy who was their quarterback at the time? He was like their star quarterback, and Tom Brady was just this little backup quarterback. But anyway, Bill Parcells, when he went there, I started following the Patriots, and they kind of became my team. And so when Pete Carroll, who I thought always coached a really entertaining brand of football, when he went over to the Seattle Seahawks, I started following them more. And they're like my second or third favorite team now. And I really enjoy them, but I don't know who they're playing this weekend, unfortunately. All right, Samuel C137 writes, looks like AMC listened to you. On the website, they have something called A-List Entourage that lets you add another member to book multiple tickets. Really? When did this happen? Because I've been saying forever, Samuel, that's one of the improvements they need to make. Like, I love A-List. It's the greatest thing. To be able to add other members to book multiple tickets for 2 AMC A-List members. Because the way it happens right now is I go, like when Anna and I want to decide we're going to go see a movie tomorrow, right? I have to go on my AMC A-List app and she's got to go on her AMC app. And we go, okay, which screening? Okay, first of all, we're going to the AMC 6, the AMC 8, or the AMC 16 because they're all within a block of each other. Okay, we're going to go to the AMC 16. Okay. Which showtime? The 7:25. Okay, 7:25, all right? And we both, now, which seat? All right, how about K25 and K26? Okay, I'll get K25. She'll go, okay, I'll get A26. Are you ready? Ready? Select and order. Did we get them? Yes. Oh, okay. So we got our seats together. I've been saying forever that one of the things they need to do to improve the service is give me a way that I can book a ticket on Anne's behalf for another A-List member so I can just book our tickets at the same time. if they've actually implemented, the first thing I'm going to do now when we're done this show today is I'm going to go and check that out because I've been wanting that feature for so long. Let's see. KW Garrett 83 writes, should I see Current War, Parasite, or Lighthouse? I would say Parasite. Because that's one is getting actually a lot of Best Picture buzz. The Current War is not, although I'm dying to see that one. I might go see that tonight too. Current War's I've been dying to see it, but it's not getting any Best Picture buzz. Lighthouse isn't really getting any Best Picture buzz. It's getting a lot of the performance buzz, but since Parasite is there, I would recommend Parasite. All right, Luis Blanco writes, good old Uncle Bob at The Emperor Strikes. Oh, Bob Iger. Yeah, every once in a while, Daddy's just got to put his foot down. At some point, you keep poking it. You keep coming over and throwing eggs on the family car. Eventually, Daddy's going to come out of the house. And Uncle Bob came out of the house there. All right, Slim Trav writes, will you see Black and Blue? Support your boy Tyrese. Don't laugh. Don't laugh. I am actually planning on going to see Black and Blue because I think the trailers look pretty good. I think the trailers look all right. And it's got the guy, why am I freezing on the actor's name? The guy who plays Romolo in Captain America Winter Soldier. Why am I freezing on his name? Anyway, he's in there too. So yeah, I am actually planning to go see it. I'm not going to see it tonight. There's too many other things. Like I got to see JoJo. I got to see Parasite. I got to see Lighthouse. I want to see Current War. But I am planning on seeing Black and Blue. And we'll see how Tyrese is in it. All right, Murray Reich writes, sir, you're needed on the bridge. Knock on my door next time. Well, this is from Spaceballs. Yes, sir. Did you see anything? No, sir. I didn't see you playing with your dolls again. Oh, Doc, how many sing? Yes, because... then you want it and you know it. I love that scene. Love that scene so much. It's always a good day, Murray, when we can talk a little bit about Spaceballs. All right, let's see here. Michael Cornish writes, you talked about it before, but is it confirmed that you will be doing a Mandalorian wrap-up show, or will it just be a part of the Star Wars show? Oh, no, I'm going to be doing, each week, I'm going to do a Mandalorian review show. Whatever you want to call it, a wrap-up show, review show, whatever. I will be doing a Mandalorian recap after each episode of The Mandalorian on this channel. Now, of course, Christian Harloff and I will talk about that week's Mandalorian on the Dark Side, Light Side show. For sure we will. But more immediately, as soon as I watch that episode, I'm going to be doing... maybe I'll give it a little bit of time, so maybe I'll give it a few hours so everybody has a chance to watch it. But I'll be doing a live streamed recap of that week's episode of Mandalorian. So yes, that is absolutely coming, Michael. Thank you for asking. Keep your eyes open for it, starting November 12th. All right, Emad writes, I'll never be like other people, but that's all right because I'm a bear called Paddington. I don't remember the line, but I'm telling you, somebody asked the other day, they asked, what's the most underrated franchise? And to me, it was easy. Paddington. Paddington is the most underrated franchise. Both of the Paddington movies, and God, I hope there's a third, both of the Paddington movies are absolutely brilliant. I love them. I eat them up. They fill you with joy, and you come out of the movie theater just feeling like the world's a better place. It's rare when a movie can do that. And the Paddington movies do that, and I love them for that, and I'm glad you brought it up, Emad. All right. Let's see here. Drew writes, hey, John, happy Thursday, and happy Thursday to you as well, my friend. Why do you think some TV writers fail to succeed in movies? We've seen recent examples of this with Damon Lindelof, Lost versus, I don't know what that is, Noah Hawley, Fargo versus Lucy Sky, and Dan Fogler. Well, here's the thing. Everybody always just assumes it's easy, right? It's easy. If a director does one great movie, well, then automatically the next movie they're going to do is great too. I mean, it speaks well to the opportunity and to the chance, but just because you wrote one great TV show or a couple of great TV shows, that doesn't necessarily, and remember, movies are different animals than television shows. Because I've always said, and I completely hold to this, and I know a lot of TV people get mad at me when I say it, but I will say it. Making a great movie is way harder than making a TV show. Way harder. The reason is, unlike in television, where you've got 9 hours to set up our story, set up the characters, give background to the characters, get them into the main plot, execute the main plot, and then bring it to conclusion. You've got, depending on how many episodes a series, you got 10, 12 hours to do it. In a movie, you've got, on average, about 2 hours, maybe 2.5, to introduce the story, introduce all the characters, give you a little bit of background on the characters, get to know who they are, introduce the main plot of the story, execute the main plot of the story, and then bring it all to a resolution. And you got to do all of that in 2 hours. That is a way different set of skills that's needed as a storyteller when you are accustomed to having all the time in the world to do all that stuff. I got all the time in the world. I don't have to do it all in the first 2 hours. I can wait till hour 3 or hour 4 or hour 5 or hour 6 to do all these different things. I got plenty of time. Plenty of time. Whereas when you're writing a film script, you've got to do all that and try to do it effectively and with impact in 2.5 hours. It's a different game, man. It's a different game. And that's why I've always said, and I still believe, that making a great movie is significantly more difficult than making a great television show. They're both very hard. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying one is easy. Not at all. But because of that big difference, you've got one time frame of roughly 2 hours to do all of it into one satisfying, compelling, impactful story in this one window of time. Go. That's a totally different set of skills. And I think part of the difference there is why we see some of that. But also it's just hard, man. Writing a good TV show or just a good movie is hard. Just because you've done it well one time doesn't mean it's going to be good another time, right? So there you go. All right. Just got time for a couple more here, guys. And then we're going to have to shut it down for the day. Fabian Vegas writes, "Hey, John and crew." Hello, Fabian. A girl I dated for the past couple of months just texted me to say I meant nothing to her. Aw. You guys help me to get my mind off of it. Thanks. Well, first of all, I'm glad movies and the movie fan community can always be here for when the crappy stuff is going on in our life. It's always great that we can just step away from the crappy stuff. That'll still be there later. But it's always great when we can step away from the crappy stuff for just a bit, watch a good movie, get entranced into a new world, or get together with other film fans, talk about something we enjoy and builds us up and all that kind of stuff. And then you can go back and face the crappy stuff later, this time with a fresh mind. I'm going to say this, Fabian. I don't know this girl, but she's a human being. So quite often what we as human beings do, if you dated for a couple of months, you meant something to her. If you dated for months, you meant something to her. If you meant nothing to her and she dated you for months, and she's a world's biggest idiot. So let's assume she's not the world's biggest idiot. You meant something to her. But what we as human beings do, right? We do this. Time for Dr. John, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. John is in the house. What we as human beings do, and you know this is true because you do it, I do it, we all do it. When we're in a hurtful situation, let's face it, breaking up is a hurtful situation. We often lash out. And we often say things that we regret later, including things that try to be hurtful. And my guess is that that's what she's doing. And let's face it, we all do it. We're never proud of it. When we think about it, we're not proud of it. But it sounds to me like something that somebody's just unhappy about the situation, whatever, is kind of just lashing out. So I wouldn't worry about it. I just tuck it away, not even worry about it. That's my thought at any rate. All right. Dr. John, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Eric Huffman writes, outside of Denzel's performance, I feel like Training Day is underrated. What are your thoughts on the movie? I quite like Training Day. But I'm not going to lie, Eric. And Ethan Hawke is tremendous in it as well. Gotta love Handsome Hawk. But Denzel's performance in Training Day, which won him an Academy Award, to me is one of the driving engines of that movie. That really is one of the big thrusters of the movie, is his performance. It's hard for me. It's been a number of years since I've watched Training Day. It's hard for me to separate his performance from it. So I don't know. I don't know if I think it's tremendously underrated, separated. Maybe it falls apart without his performance. Maybe it's just as strong. I don't know. It's hard to say because it's so difficult for me to separate it. But I still do think his performance was one of the driving engines of it. That is great movie, great performance, all that kind of stuff. All right. McDavid deserves better rights. Statistically speaking, kids who reach a high level of minor hockey have a 1 in 6,000 chance of getting drafted in the NHL. Sure beats the 649 lottery. For my American friends, the 649 lottery is a Canadian lottery ticket you can get. The 649. Now that I think about it, I have no idea why it's called the 649. It's not like they only did it every 6 days or every 49. I have no idea what that was. I think McDavid's bringing that because somebody asked me how close I came to turning pro. And I'm like, not close at all. Like, I played at a pretty high level. I was pretty good. But nowhere near. If I was good enough to have done playing in the NHL, friends, I'd be playing in the NHL. I was not good enough. I was about half good enough to play in junior. If I was twice as good as I was, not 10 times as good, but if I was twice as good as I was, I probably could have played junior. But I wasn't. And junior's a long way off from the NHL. So it was a very, very unlikely career path. All right. McDavid also writes, less than 10% of drafted players will hit 300 games. So the chances of going from minor hockey to a legit NHL career is roughly, well, very, very small. It's roughly very, very small. Now let me see this. 10, 100,000, 10,000, 100,000 mil. It's got be a little bit higher than that, but not much. The point is, though, true. It's an incredibly long shot of a dream to think you're going to play in the NHL. Some people get to experience it. Many, like me, never came close. All right. Chris Warden writes, while Gemini Man is definitely a flop, I wouldn't put it in the same category as, say, King Arthur, Mortal Engines, or Robin Hood, where the studio lost like $200 million. No, it's true. It's like Gemini Man is not like one of the biggest financial disasters of all time. Not saying that. But just because you're not one of the biggest financial disasters of all time doesn't change the fact that it is a monstrous financial disaster. This was a monstrous financial disaster of a movie. No getting around that. But you're right. It's not like it's one of the biggest money loser films of all time, but it's a significant money loser. And that's rough. That's rough. All right. Movie Pop writes, I love the Super Mario movie. Bob Hoskins, John Leguizamo were perfect. I'm not so sure about that. But what did people expect? Mario growing into a giant with a 1-up and jumping on literal 4-foot Goombas? Well, I mean, here's the thing, Movie Pop. All film is subjective. And if you watch that movie and it hit you in a certain way and it's a special film to you, that's awesome. And don't let anybody yuck on your yum. That's awesome, and you should celebrate that, and I celebrate that you loved it. However, from my point of view, it was not a very good movie. And when you ask, what were people expecting? A good movie? That's all. Just a good movie. But you know what? You're not alone. I've got a couple friends who actually really like that Mario movie. And so you are not alone. And if it worked for you, that is great. All right. Here for Chris Carr, just sends a super chat. Thank you. Samuel Beaumont Stidwill writes, highly recommend watching Rogan with Ed Snowden. Oh, I like the Rogan podcast anyway, so that sounds like one I'll have to give a check out. Let's see. Dave XP writes, well, do you think that the movie Chaos Walking, that's the one with Daisy Ridley and Tom Holland, that the movie Chaos Walking will ever be released? Yes. Yes, it is going to get released, but it's a movie that has had a lot of problems. I'm so intrigued to see the final result after all the production troubles. Yeah, me too, but I do believe it is going to get a release. I do believe it is going to get a release. So there's that. All right, Jeff Nunston writes, "Hey all, love everything you do. Thank you so much. Are you not moving back into a studio? Is that a sore subject?" No, it's not. We actually just talked about this last week. Somebody brought that up. I would be very open into moving into a studio. The fact of the matter is, though, this is weird. I just talked about this the other day on the channel, is that I put this up on social media. You know, the John Campea YouTube channel, we are a small channel, all right? We are a small channel. Bigger than some, sure, but absolutely tiny compared to others. Absolutely tiny compared to many others. We are a modestly small YouTube channel, which is great. I love it. I love doing what we do. But you know, so as a small little YouTube channel, when we hit certain milestones, I get kind of excited. And let me just bring something up here if I can. So there's something called the Rolling 30. And the Rolling 30 is basically this. How many people, if you're a YouTube channel, how many times did people watch your videos in the past 30 days? How many times did people watch your videos in the past 30 days? And when I was still doing this show from a studio, and I loved that studio, by the way, over the stream. I loved that studio, and I love the people there. We climbed up to about 2.7, 2.8 million views of our videos in a 30-day window. And that was great. That was great. Since moving out of the studio and into the home studio here, which works pretty well for our purposes, we have actually grown. I just put this up on Twitter the other day. For the first time ever, we hit 5 million in our Rolling 30. 5 million in our Rolling 30. Again, tiny compared to many. Tiny compared to many. Insignificant even to a lot of other channels. And so that is what it is. But for us, it's a new milestone. And so it's just been kind of funny that since leaving the studio, the channel and our viewership has just continued to grow without a studio, which is great. Now, would I like to be back in a studio? I would like to be back in a studio because I like a little more flexibility. Because, you know, here in this home studio that I set up, we've got very, very limited space in here. And there's only so much you can do with that limited space. So would I like to be in a studio environment again? I would. The problem is, I live in Burbank, California, y'all. Rent is super expensive. To get a reasonably sized space, for me to rent a reasonably sized, not huge, not massive, just a reasonably sized space that I could set up a proper sized studio in to shoot the John Campea Show, I am, no kidding, looking at somewhere between $3,000 to $5,000 a month for rent on a space like that. Nah, 3 to 4. 3 to 4. I simply don't have the extra $3,000 to $4,000 a month to spend on that. I just don't. If we were to get together another 300 or 400 Patreon supporters, maybe we could afford to do that. And I would like to eventually get out of the home studio and do something more in a bigger space, so we could have the big news desk sort of thing like we did in the last studio I was in. I would like that, but I don't feel an overwhelming push to do it right now because, number one, I just don't have the money for it. But number two is because, well, since we've been doing the show in this little home studio, we've not quite, but almost doubled in viewership. And our numbers continue to go up, as small and as modest as they are compared to many. They are numbers that have just continued to go up, being in this environment. So eventually, I wouldn't mind doing it. It's just going to cost me a lot of money that I don't have right now. But because right now the money I get in, I like to spend that money on proper gear to give you guys the best presentation we can. I like to spend that money on people like Ray and Robert and Aaron and whatnot. I like to put money into making the show better. But would I be open to it sometime? Yeah. If I get to the place where I find the right deal on some space and we're making enough money on the channel that I can, on top of all the other expenses, I can also afford that, then yeah, I will make that move. But until that happens, we're doing pretty well in here. We're doing pretty well in here for now. But hey, it's a totally fair question. All right, guys, listen. For everybody else who still has questions outstanding, from All Hail Thanos, I love that name, to Zach Haskell and James Argenta and everybody else all the way down, do not worry. All your questions are going to get answered in a video either today or tomorrow. Probably today, but it might be tomorrow. All the questions you guys sent in are getting answered properly in a video. I just have some meetings lined up today, so I can't go too much. We've already gone over 2 hours and 20 minutes, so I don't have the time to go much longer today. But your questions are valuable. They're going to get answered in the next companion video. Keep your eyes open for it, and thank you guys for sending that in. Hey guys, listen, special thank you to, of course, Chris Carr and Aaron Cummings for being here today. It's always great to have those two in here in the studio. Thank you to all of you guys who took time out of your day to spend it here with us. That is awesome. And an extra special thank you to all you guys who sent in the super chat questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported the channel while you were doing that. And we all here, thank you so much for making that possible. That will do it for me for now, guys. Thank you so much for being here. My name is John Campea. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.